The Vorta envoy's declaration shatters the polite atmosphere of the diplomatic reception aboard the Starship Intrepid. Human diplomat Joseph Richardson must adopt Princess Diana, the Vorta leader's daughter, or face interstellar war. Glasses clink as they fall from shocked hands. Conversations halt mid-sentence. All eyes turn to Joseph, a 35-year-old widower, as he processes this bizarre ultimatum. Captain Elena Vasquez steps forward, her crisp uniform a stark contrast to the colorful attire of the alien delegates. "Surely there's been a misunderstanding," she says, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. The Vorta envoy, a tall, willowy being with iridescent blue skin, shakes his head. "There is no error. Your ship's navigational mistake caused damage to our outpost. Our sacred traditions demand recompense through adoption." Joseph's mind reels. He opens his mouth to refuse, but Admiral Jean cuts him off with a sharp look. "Mr. Richardson, a word," the Admiral says, guiding Joseph to a quiet corner of the reception hall. "Sir, you can't seriously expect me to dash," Joseph begins, but Jean interrupts. "The fate of galactic peace may rest on this, Richardson. We need you to comply." Joseph's shoulders slump. He nods, defeated. The Vorta Princess Diana enters the hall. Her blue skin shimmers under the lights, scales catching and reflecting the glow. Large, mesmerizing eyes scan the room before settling on Joseph. She appears resigned, but a flicker of curiosity passes over her delicate features. A Vorta attendant presents Joseph with an ornate scepter. "This will bind you through the adoption rituals," he explains. "You have 30 days to complete the process." Joseph takes the scepter, its weight unfamiliar in his hands. He glances at Diana, feeling a spark of attraction that he immediately tries to suppress. The first ritual requires 24 hours of solitude together, the Vorta envoy announces. "Your quarters have been prepared." Murmurs ripple through the human crew. Captain Vasquez frowns, clearly concerned about the diplomatic implications of this arrangement. As Joseph and Diana are escorted from the reception hall, he catches snippets of worried conversations. Is this even legal? What will Earth say? Can we trust the Vorta? The walk to their shared quarters feels endless. Joseph's mind races, grappling with ethical concerns and his unexpected physical response to Diana's presence. He steals glances at her, noting the graceful way she moves, the subtle shifts of color across her skin. They reach the door to their temporary home. It slides open with a soft hiss, revealing a spacious room adorned with a mix of human and Vorta decor. The air is thick with tension and unspoken questions. Diana enters first, her movements careful and measured. Joseph follows, the adoption scepter still clutched in his hand. As the door closes behind them, sealing them in for the next 24 hours, Joseph takes a deep breath. "Well," he says, breaking the silence, "I suppose we should introduce ourselves properly." Diana turns to face him, her large eyes reflecting a mix of apprehension and intrigue. "Yes," she replies, her voice melodious and alien. "I believe that would be an appropriate start to our unique situation." As they begin to navigate this forced intimacy, the Intrepid sets course for Earth. In the bridge, Captain Vasquez issues orders, her voice tight with worry. "Set speed for maximum efficiency. We need to reach Earth as quickly as possible." The starship accelerates, carrying its crew, a reluctant human diplomat, and an alien princess towards an uncertain future. In their quarters, Joseph and Diana take their first tentative steps into a relationship that could reshape the galaxy. Diana turns to face Joseph, her large eyes reflecting a mix of apprehension and intrigue. "Yes," she replies, her voice melodious and alien. "I believe that would be an appropriate start to our unique situation." Joseph nods, running a hand through his hair as he considers how to begin. "Well, I'm Joseph Richardson, Earth diplomat." "Aye," I'm not sure what else to say. This isn't exactly a typical meet and greet. Diana's scales ripple with amusement. Indeed, it is not. I am Princess Diana of the Vorta. Perhaps we could engage in a cultural exchange? It might help ease the tension. That's an excellent idea, Joseph agrees, relief evident in his voice. He gestures to the seating area, and they settle onto the plush cushions. For hours they talk, their initial awkwardness melting away as curiosity takes hold. Joseph explains Earth's history, from ancient civilizations to space exploration. Diana listens, enraptured, asking insightful questions that reveal her keen intellect. In turn, Diana shares the intricacies of Vorta society. Joseph learns of their complex social hierarchies, their reverence for science and art, and their unique biology that allows them to adapt to various environments. As their conversation deepens, Diana's expression grows serious. There is something you should know about the adoption ritual, Joseph. It is more involved than you may have been led to believe. Joseph leans forward, his brow furrowing. What do you mean? The process involves a series of physical challenges, Diana explains, her scales shifting to a deeper blue. They are designed to test compatibility and build trust between the adoptive parent and child. Joseph's eyes widen. Physical challenges? What kind of challenges? Diana's gaze meets his. They often require close physical contact and cooperation. The first is a traditional Vorta bonding exercise, a meditative dance to synchronize our biorhythms. Joseph swallows hard, suddenly aware of the limited space between them. I see. And when does this dance take place? Now would be an appropriate time, Diana says, rising gracefully. She extends a hand to Joseph. Shall we begin? With a deep breath, Joseph takes her hand and stands. Diana dims the lights, casting the room in a soft glow that makes her scales shimmer. She moves to the center of the room, and Joseph follows. Follow my lead, Diana instructs, beginning to sway. Her movements are fluid, almost hypnotic. Joseph attempts to mimic her, his motions initially stiff and awkward. As they continue, Joseph finds himself relaxing into the rhythm. Diana's scent, sweet and alien, fills his senses. Their bodies draw closer, the dance becoming more intimate. Joseph's heart races as Diana's scales brush against his skin. Time seems to blur as they move together, their biorhythms aligning. Joseph becomes acutely aware of Diana's alien physiology, the smooth texture of her scales, the unique contours of her body. He struggles to maintain his composure, torn between growing attraction and his sense of duty. The dance intensifies, their bodies press together, moving in perfect harmony. Joseph's breath catches in his throat as Diana's large eyes meet his, filled with an emotion he can't quite decipher. As the ritual concludes, they stand motionless, still embracing. Joseph's mind whirls with conflicting thoughts and emotions. He clears his throat, stepping back. That was intense, he manages to say. Diana nods, her scales flushed a deep violet. Indeed, the ritual was successful. Our biorhythms are now in sync. Joseph runs a hand through his hair, trying to regain his composure. Perhaps we should take a break to rest and reflect on the experience. Of course, Diana agrees. I will use this time to freshen up. She moves towards the refresher, leaving Joseph alone with his thoughts. As soon as the door closes behind her, a communication panel on the wall chimes softly. Joseph answers, finding Captain Steele's face on the screen. Richardson, Steele says, his expression tense. We received word from Earth's diplomatic corps. They're divided on how to proceed with the situation. Joseph nods, unsurprised. What are my orders, Captain? Steele sighs. Continue with the ritual, but exercise extreme caution. Maintain professional boundaries. Some see this as an opportunity for interstellar cooperation. Others fear complications in human-border relations. Tread carefully, Richardson. Understood, sir, Joseph replies, ending the communication just as Diana emerges from the refresher. Her scales glisten with moisture, catching the light in mesmerizing patterns. Joseph, she says, her voice soft. The next phase of the ritual awaits us. We must share a meal, feeding each other while blindfolded. It symbolizes trust and care. Joseph's pulse quickens as he considers the intimacy of the act. He thinks of Captain Steele's warning to maintain professional boundaries, but as he looks at Diana, he realizes that may be easier said than done. Very well, he says, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. Let's begin. As they prepare for the blindfolded meal, Joseph can't help but wonder how he'll navigate the increasing intimacy of these rituals while keeping his growing feelings in check. The delicate balance of interstellar diplomacy hangs in the balance, and Joseph finds himself at the center of a storm he never could have anticipated. As Joseph and Diana prepare for the blindfolded meal ritual, a soft chime interrupts their preparations. Joseph taps the communication panel, revealing Captain Steele's face once more. Richardson, there's been a development, Steele says, his voice low and urgent. We've received new orders from Earth. They want us to abort the mission and bring you back immediately. Joseph's eyes widen, a mix of relief and disappointment washing over him. He glances at Diana, who stands nearby, her scales shifting to a pale blue. Before he can respond, the ship lurches violently, throwing them both off balance. The lights flicker and dim, plunging the room into an eerie twilight. Emergency sirens blare through the ship's corridors. What's happening? Joseph calls out, steadying himself against the wall. Captain Steele's image on the screen wavers, his voice distorted by static. We've dropped out of FTL. Multiple systems are offline. I'll update you when I can. Steele out. The communication cuts off abruptly, leaving Joseph and Diana in stunned silence. They exchange worried glances, the planned ritual momentarily forgotten. Perhaps we should postpone our meal, Diana suggests, her large eyes scanning the room as if searching for answers. Joseph nods, running a hand through his hair. Agreed, but we're under orders to stay put. We might as well continue with the adoption rituals while we wait for news. Diana retrieves the blindfolds and a tray of assorted foods. They settle on cushions in the center of the room, the emergency lights casting long shadows across their faces. Are you ready? Diana asks, her voice barely above a whisper. Joseph takes a deep breath, pushing aside his concerns about the ship's status. As I'll ever be, he replies, securing the blindfold over his eyes. The ritual begins, and Joseph finds himself hyper-aware of every sensation. Diana's fingers brush against his lips as she carefully places a morsel of food in his mouth. The taste is exotic, a burst of flavors he can't identify. He reciprocates, his hands trembling slightly as he navigates by touch alone. As the ritual progresses, the tension between them grows palpable. Their hands meet more frequently, lingering longer with each contact. Joseph's heart races, his skin tingling where Diana's scales graze him. Suddenly, he feels something cool and wet splash against his chest. Diana gasps softly. I'm so sorry, she says, her voice flustered. I've spilled the Vorta nectar. Please, allow me to clean it. Before Joseph can respond, he feels Diana's hands on his chest, her touch sending shockwaves through his body. He inhales sharply, his muscles tensing involuntarily. Diana, he manages to say, his voice hoarse. Perhaps we should dash. His words are cut short as Diana's hands still on his chest. Even through the blindfold, he can sense her proximity, feel the warmth of her breath on his face. Joseph, she whispers, I believe we need to discuss something important. They remove their blindfolds, finding themselves mere inches apart. Joseph swallows hard, fighting the urge to close the distance between them. "You're right," he says, leaning back slightly. "This situation is complicated." Diana nods, her scales shifting to a deep purple. "There's something you should know about vortophysiology," she begins, her voice hesitant. "When we find a suitable mate, we release pheromones that can affect the behavior of males around us." Joseph's eyes widen as understanding dawns. "Are you saying that's what's happening here?" Before Diana can answer, Captain Steele's voice echoes through the ship's communication system. "Attention all crew members. We are currently stranded in an uncharted sector of space. Our communications and propulsion systems are offline. Engineering teams are working on repairs, but it may take days or even weeks to restore full functionality. All non-essential personnel are to remain in their quarters to conserve resources. We will provide updates as they become available." The announcement ends, leaving Joseph and Diana in stunned silence. They look at each other, the implications of their forced proximity settling over them like a heavy blanket. "It seems we have more time for these rituals than we anticipated," Diana says softly. Joseph nods, his mind racing. "We should continue. It's important to maintain diplomatic protocols, especially in a crisis." Diana's scales ripple with what Joseph interprets as agreement. "The next ritual," she explains, "involves a Vorta trust exercise. We must sleep in the same bed, maintaining physical contact throughout the night." Joseph's breath catches in his throat. He thinks of Captain Steele's earlier warning about maintaining professional boundaries, but the prospect of spending the night in close contact with Diana sends a thrill through him. "I understand," he says, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. "Shall we prepare for sleep then?" As they move towards a bed, Joseph can't help but wonder how he'll navigate this increasingly complex situation. The lines between duty and desire blur with each passing moment, and the fate of human-Vorta relations hangs in the balance. Outside their quarters, the Intrepid's crew works tirelessly to repair the ship's systems. On the bridge, Captain Steele receives a cryptic message suggesting the malfunction might not have been an accident. He orders a discreet investigation, his brow furrowed with concern. Meanwhile, Joseph and Diana lie down together, their bodies tentatively touching. The warmth of Diana's scales against his skin sends a shiver down Joseph's spine. As they settle into position, both acutely aware of each other's presence, the stage is set for further complications in their relationship and the delicate balance of interstellar diplomacy. As Joseph and Diana settled into bed, their bodies tentatively touching, an unexpected jolt rocked the ship. The Intrepid's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly, pushing them closer together. Joseph's heart raced as Diana's scales pressed against his skin, her alien warmth seeping into him. Before either could react, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Steele's voice crackled over the intercom, urgency clear in his tone. "All personnel, secure yourselves immediately. We've drifted into an asteroid field. Brace for impact." Joseph's training kicked in. He instinctively wrapped his arms around Diana, pulling her close to shield her from potential harm. The ship shuddered as smaller asteroids pelted its hull, each impact sending vibrations through the metal floor. In the chaos, Joseph became acutely aware of Diana's scent. It was stronger now, more intoxicating than ever. His pulse quickened, and he found himself fighting to maintain his composure. "Joseph," Diana whispered, her large eyes meeting his. I can't control it. The stress, it's affecting my physiology." He nodded, understanding dawning. The pheromones she mentioned earlier were intensifying, clouding his judgment. The combination of adrenaline, fear, and her alien allure pushed him to the edge of his self-control. Another violent shake threw them off balance. Joseph tightened his grip, trying to keep them both steady. In the tumult, their faces drew closer and suddenly, unexpectedly, their lips brushed. Time seemed to stop. The electric shock of the contact froze them both. Joseph's breath caught in his throat, his body rigid with tension. Diana's scales flushed a deep, vibrant purple. The moment stretched, neither daring to move. The alarms continued to blare. The ship continued to shake, but in their bubble of charged silence, none of it seemed to matter. A particularly forceful impact shattered the moment, throwing them from the bed. They tumbled to the floor, limbs tangled. As they scrambled to regain their footing, a metallic clatter caught Joseph's attention. Diana's ceremonial necklace had fallen, the delicate chain snapped by the impact. As it hit the ground, the pendant broke open, revealing something hidden within. Joseph's eyes widened as he spotted what looked like a data chip nestled inside. "Diana," he began, reaching for the chip. But before he could grasp it, the ship's emergency containment protocols activated with a hiss. Metal shutters slammed down over the windows and door, sealing them inside. "What's happening?" Diana asked, her voice tinged with fear. Joseph tried the communication panel, but it remained stubbornly silent. "We're cut off," he said, frustration evident in his tone. "It must be an automatic safety measure." As the minutes ticked by, Joseph became aware of another problem. The temperature in the room was slowly but steadily rising. Sweat beaded on his forehead, and he noticed Diana's scales glistening with moisture. "The air recycling system must be malfunctioning," he muttered, stripping off his outer shirt. Diana followed suit, removing her outer layer of clothing. The heat continued to build, forcing them to shed more layers. Joseph found himself increasingly distracted by Diana's alien physique, her scales shimmering in the dim emergency lighting. The lingering effects of her pheromones, combined with their state of undress and the intensity of their shared experience, created an atmosphere of unbearable tension. Throughout it all, Joseph couldn't take his eyes off the data chip lying on the floor between them. Questions raced through his mind. What was it? Why had Diana hidden it? Was this related to the ship's malfunctions? "Diana," he said, his voice low and serious, "I think it's time we had a talk about what's really going on here." Diana's scales shifted, a kaleidoscope of colors reflecting her inner turmoil. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could utter a word, the ship lurched violently once more. The force of the movement sent them both stumbling. Joseph reached out to steady himself, his hand landing on Diana's arm. The contact sent a jolt through him, intensifying the already charged atmosphere. As they stood there, bodies close, breaths mingling, the air heavy with heat and unspoken truths, Joseph realized that the simple adoption ritual he'd agreed to had become something far more complex and dangerous. Outside their sealed quarters, the Intrepid finally cleared the asteroid field, but the damage was done. Systems throughout the ship flickered and failed, plunging sections into darkness. In engineering, a young ensign named Tyler Rodriguez made a startling discovery, unaware of the cloaked figures watching from the shadows. The stage was set for revelations that would shake the foundations of human-border relations, and at the center of it all stood Joseph and Diana, trapped in a room growing hotter by the minute, with a mysterious data chip holding secrets that could change everything. The heat in the sealed quarters intensified, forcing Joseph and Diana to shed even more layers. Joseph's shirt clung to his sweat-soaked skin, while Diana's scales glistened with moisture, taking on an iridescent sheen in the dim emergency lighting. "We need to cool down," Joseph said, his voice strained. He scanned the room desperately, his eyes landing on a small panel near the floor. "Wait, I think I see something." He moved towards the wall, his fingers probing the edges of the panel. With a soft click, it popped open, revealing a small compartment. Inside, he found an emergency water supply, a few sealed containers of precious liquid. "Diana, look," he called out, relief evident in his voice. "We can use this to cool off." Diana moved closer, her scales now emitting a soft, bioluminescent glow that captivated Joseph's attention. He found himself mesmerized by the patterns rippling across her alien skin, a visual representation of her heightened emotional state. "That's a relief," Diana said, reaching for one of the containers. "Shall we?" Joseph nodded, unable to tear his eyes away from her. He opened a container and, with only a moment's hesitation, poured the cool liquid over Diana's head and shoulders. She gasped at the sensation, her scales shimmering even more brightly. "Your turn," Diana said, taking the container from him. Her hands trembled slightly as she tipped it over Joseph's head, the water cascading down his bare chest. Their eyes locked as Diana's hand lingered on his shoulder, ostensibly to help spread the cooling water. Joseph felt his pulse quicken, the combination of Diana's touch and the lingering effects of her pheromones clouding his judgment. As they took turns pouring water over each other, their hands began to linger longer, their touches becoming more intimate. Joseph found himself tracing the patterns on Diana's scales, fascinated by their texture and the way they seemed to respond to his touch. The air grew thick with unspoken tension, their breathing becoming more labored, and not just from the heat. Joseph struggled to maintain his composure, acutely aware of how compromising their situation had become. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Marcus Steele led a security team through the ship's corridors. Their footsteps echoed in the eerie silence as they searched for signs of sabotage. "Sir," called out Lieutenant Chen, gesturing to a panel near the communication array. "I'm picking up unusual energy readings from this section." Steele approached, his brow furrowed. "Open it up," he ordered. Chen carefully removed the panel, revealing a mess of wires and circuitry. Nestled among them was a small, alien device, pulsing with a faint purple light. "It's Vorta technology," Steele said grimly. "This confirms our suspicions of sabotage. Carefully remove it and take it to the science lab for analysis." As the security team worked to extract the device, Steele's mind raced. The implications of Vorta sabotage could be far-reaching, potentially jeopardizing the entire adoption ritual and the fragile peace between their species. In engineering, Ensign Tyler Rodriguez groaned as he regained consciousness. Dr. Eliza Green was at his side immediately, helping him sit up. "Easy there, Ensign," she said softly. "Can you tell us what happened?" Rodriguez blinked, his memories slowly coming into focus. "I was running diagnostics when I saw figures. They were cloaked, almost invisible. But I heard them speaking. It sounded like the Vorta language, but different somehow." Dr. Green exchanged a worried glance with her assistant. "Vorta infiltrators on board? This is worse than we thought." Back in Joseph and Diana's quarters, the malfunctioning air recycling system began to take its toll. The oxygen levels dropped steadily, causing them both to feel lightheaded and disoriented. "Joseph," Diana said, her voice slurred slightly, "I feel strange." Joseph nodded, finding it hard to focus. "Me too. The oxygen must be getting low." As their inhibitions lowered, words began to spill from their mouths, secrets and desires they would normally keep hidden. "I have to tell you something," Diana said, her large eyes fixed on Joseph. "My father, High Counselor Zaxxer, he gave me a secret mission. I was supposed to gather intelligence on human technology and weaknesses." Joseph's eyes widened at the revelation. "You're a spy." Diana shook her head frantically. "No. I mean, yes, but..." "Joseph, I've been questioning everything. My feelings for you, they're real. I can't follow through with the mission." Joseph found himself moving closer to Diana, drawn by her confession and the intoxicating atmosphere. "I've been struggling too," he admitted. "My attraction to you, it's been tearing me apart. My duty versus my desires." Their faces were inches apart now, the tension between them reaching a breaking point. Just as it seemed they might close the final distance between them, a loud hiss filled the room. The door to their quarters slid open, fresh air rushing in. Dr. Eliza Green stood in the doorway, flanked by a security team. She took in the scene before her, Joseph and Diana's state of undress, their proximity, the oppressive heat of the room, and quickly assessed the situation. "Get them oxygen masks now," she ordered, rushing forward to help. As Joseph's mind began to clear, he realized the gravity of what had just transpired. The secrets revealed, the lines almost crossed. It was all spinning out of control. Dr. Green's voice cut through his thoughts. "We've managed to bring some systems back online, but we're detecting strange energy readings from that." She pointed to Diana's broken necklace on the floor, the exposed data chip now emitting a faint glow. Joseph's eyes locked onto the chip, remembering the moment he had discovered it. Now, it seemed, that small piece of technology might hold the key to unraveling the mystery that had enveloped the Intrepid. As Joseph and Diana were escorted from their quarters, still reeling from their intimate encounter and shared confessions, the ship buzzed with activity. The crew worked tirelessly to repair systems and uncover the truth behind the sabotage. The adoption ritual, once a symbol of hope for human-border relations, now stood at the center of a web of conspiracy and hidden agendas. And caught in the middle were Joseph and Diana, their growing feelings for each other complicated by duty, secrets, and the uncertain future that lay ahead. The revelation of Diana's true mission and the discovery of Vorta's sabotage had shattered the fragile trust between humans and Vorta aboard the Intrepid. As Joseph and Diana were escorted from their quarters, Captain Marcus Steele's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. "All senior staff report to the bridge immediately. We have a situation." Joseph felt a pang of regret as Diana was led away in the opposite direction. Their eyes met briefly, a silent exchange of unspoken emotions, before they were separated. In the hours that followed, the Intrepid buzzed with activity. Joseph found himself confined to his quarters, pacing restlessly as he awaited news. The sudden isolation after the intense intimacy he had shared with Diana left him feeling hollow and conflicted. Meanwhile, in the science lab, Dr. Eliza Green hunched over a workstation, her brow furrowed in concentration as she examined the data chip from Diana's necklace. A team of cryptographers worked alongside her, their fingers flying over keyboards as they attempted to crack the encryption. "There's something here," Dr. Green muttered, her eyes scanning lines of code. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before. The encryption is incredibly complex, but there are patterns. Vorta patterns." As the team worked tirelessly to unravel the chip's secrets, Captain Steele stood on the bridge, his face grave as he addressed his senior staff. "We have confirmed Vorta's sabotage on multiple systems. Until we can ascertain the full extent of the damage and potential threats, we're implementing heightened security protocols. All non-essential personnel are to remain in their quarters." Suddenly, the communication officer's console lit up. "Captain, we're receiving an incoming transmission. It's from a nearby star system, sir, but the signature is unlike anything in our database." Steele's eyes narrowed. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a female Vorta. Her features bore a striking resemblance to Diana's, but her expression was harder, more weathered. "I am Commander Zara of the Vorta Liberation Front. I have information vital to your survival and the future of human-Vorta relations." A ripple of surprise ran through the bridge crew. Steele stepped forward, his voice cautious but firm. "I'm Captain Marcus Steele of the USS Intrepid." "We're listening, Commander Zara." Zara's eyes darted around, as if checking for unseen threats. "What I'm about to tell you will be difficult to believe, but I assure you it's the truth. The adoption ritual your crew member and my niece are undergoing is not what it seems. It's an ancient Vorta practice, designed to forge unbreakable alliances through a combination of diplomacy and intimate bonding. Steele's eyebrows shot up. Intimate bonding? Yes, Zara continued. The ritual's true purpose is to create a deep, almost telepathic connection between the participants. But it's been corrupted by those in power, including my brother, High Counselor Zaxxer. As Zara explained the true nature of the adoption ritual and the corruption within the Vorta High Council, Dr. Green burst onto the bridge, her face flushed with excitement and fear. "Captain," she said breathlessly, "we've decrypted part of the data chip. It contains plans for a Vorta superweapon, capable of destabilizing the entire sector. And, sir, it requires access to Earth's defense systems to be completed." Steele's face hardened as he connected the dots. So the adoption ritual was a ploy to gain access to our defenses. "Not entirely," Zara interjected. "The ritual itself is real and ancient. But yes, my brother intended to use it for his own nefarious purposes." Steele paced the bridge, his mind racing. After a moment of contemplation, he turned to face his crew and the image of Commander Zara. "We need to continue the ritual." Gasps and murmurs of surprise filled the bridge. Steele held up a hand for silence. If what Commander Zara says is true, the ritual could be our best chance at uncovering the full extent of this plot and potentially neutralizing the threat. But we'll do it under strict supervision. Within the hour, Joseph and Diana found themselves reunited in a specially prepared chamber. The room was a curious blend of clinical observation deck and alien ritual space. Vorta symbols adorned the walls, while discrete sensors and cameras monitored every movement. As they stood facing each other, Joseph could see the conflict in Diana's eyes. He opened his mouth to speak, but she beat him to it. "Joseph, I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't know the full extent of my father's plans." Joseph nodded slowly, still processing the whirlwind of revelations. "I believe you, Diana. But where do we go from here?" Before Diana could respond, Captain Steele's voice came through the room speakers. "Mr. Chun, Ms. Diana, we're going to proceed with the next phase of the adoption ritual. Our intelligence suggests this involves a series of physical challenges designed to test your compatibility and strengthen your bond." Joseph and Diana exchanged nervous glances as a section of the wall slid away, revealing an elaborate obstacle course. Steele continued, "You will need to work together to navigate this course. Remember, every action you take is being monitored and analyzed." As they approached the first obstacle, a shimmering force field that required synchronized movements to pass through, Joseph felt a familiar tension building between them. Diana's scales began to glow faintly, her pheromones filling the air despite the room's advanced filtration system. "Ready?" Joseph asked, holding out his hand. Diana took it, her scaled fingers intertwining with his. "Ready." They stepped forward together, the force field parting around them as they moved in perfect synchronization. As they progressed through increasingly complex challenges, their bodies frequently pressed together, reigniting the spark that had nearly consumed them in their overheated quarters. Unknown to the participants, their growing connection was having an unexpected effect on the ship's systems. In engineering, consoles flickered erratically, power fluctuations rippling through the intrepid circuitry. "Dr. Green," called out an engineer, "you need to see this." Eliza rushed over, her eyes widening as she took in the readings. "It's the Vorta technology we found. It's responding to them somehow." Back in the ritual chamber, Joseph and Diana had just completed a particularly grueling challenge involving a zero-gravity puzzle. As they floated back down to the ground, their bodies pressed close together, Joseph found himself lost in Diana's alien yet alluring eyes. "Diana," he breathed, acutely aware of every point of contact between them. "Joseph," she replied, her scales shimmering with a kaleidoscope of colors. The air around them seemed to crackle with energy as they stood on the precipice of something momentous. The next phase of the ritual loomed before them, promising to push the boundaries of their relationship even further and potentially unlock the secrets hidden within the ship's very walls. As Joseph and Diana prepared themselves for what was to come, the crew of the Intrepid watched with breathless expectation, knowing that the fate of interstellar relations, and possibly the entire sector, hung in the balance of this ancient Vorta ritual. As Joseph and Diana stood face to face, their bodies still tingling from the challenges they had overcome together, a new energy filled the air. Captain Steele's voice crackled through the speakers once more. "Mr. Chun, Ms. Diana, we're entering the final phase of the adoption ritual. Our data suggests this involves a traditional Vorta mating dance. Proceed with caution." Joseph's heart raced as he locked eyes with Diana. Her scales were already shimmering with anticipation, casting a soft glow around them. He took a deep breath, steadying himself for what was to come. "I'll lead," Diana whispered, her voice barely audible. She placed one hand on Joseph's waist and took his other hand in hers. As they began to move, the ship's systems responded dramatically. The lights in the chamber pulsed in perfect rhythm with their steps, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. Joseph found himself lost in the intricate patterns of the dance, his body moving in ways he never thought possible. Their movements became more fluid, more intimate with each passing moment. Diana's scales intensified their glow, bathing them both in a mesmerizing light. Joseph could feel the heat radiating from her body, her alien pheromones overwhelming his senses. As they twirled and stepped in perfect synchronization, Joseph became acutely aware of every point of contact between them. Diana's scales brushed against his skin, sending shivers down his spine. The dance brought them closer and closer, their bodies pressing together in ways that tested the limits of Joseph's self-control. In engineering, Dr. Green watched in awe as the ship's systems fluctuated wildly. "It's as if the entire ship is responding to their dance," she muttered, her fingers flying over the console as she tried to make sense of the readings. Back in the ritual chamber, Joseph and Diana's movements reached a fever pitch. Their bodies moved as one, the line between human and Vorta blurring with each step. As the dance neared its climax, Joseph found himself drawn inexorably towards Diana's face. Their lips met in a kiss that sent shockwaves through the entire ship. The moment their mouths connected, a surge of energy coursed through the Intrepid systems, overloading circuits and causing consoles to spark across every deck. Joseph barely noticed the chaos erupting around them. His world had narrowed to the feeling of Diana's lips against his, the taste of her alien saliva mingling with his own. Unbeknownst to him, the exchange was already beginning to alter his physiology on a cellular level. As they finally broke apart, gasping for air, a new sensation washed over them both. Joseph blinked in confusion as he suddenly felt a wave of emotions that weren't his own. Diana's mix of exhilaration, fear, and affection. "Joseph," Diana's voice was uncertain. I can feel you, in my mind." Before he could respond, a low rumble shook the chamber. A section of the wall slid away, revealing a hidden alcove. Within it, a crystal unlike anything Joseph had ever seen pulsated with an otherworldly light. Dr. Green's voice came through the speakers, tight with tension. "Captain, sensors are detecting an enormous power surge. That crystal, it's amplifying the energy produced by the ritual. The effect is spreading throughout the ship." Joseph and Diana stood transfixed, their newfound mental link humming with shared wonder and apprehension. As they watched, tendrils of energy began to seep out from the crystal, spreading through the air like luminescent mist. Across the ship, crew members began to report strange sensations. Lieutenant Sarah Chun in engineering suddenly found herself empathizing deeply with a colleague she'd always disliked. In sickbay, Dr. Patel felt a wave of unity wash over him, as if he could sense the presence of every person aboard the Intrepid. Captain Steele's voice cut through the growing chaos. "All hands, this is the captain. We're experiencing some kind of empathic field. Maintain your stations and report any unusual effects immediately." As he finished speaking, another voice broke through the ship's communications. "Attention, USS Intrepid. This is High Counselor Zaxxer of the Vorta Imperium. You will power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." Joseph and Diana exchanged a look of horror, their shared emotions amplifying their fear. Through their mental link, Joseph could sense Diana's conflict, her loyalty to her father warring with her growing feelings for him and the crew of the Intrepid. As Zaxxer's battlecruiser loomed ever closer, Joseph and Diana stood at the heart of the spreading energy field, the Nexus crystal pulsing behind them. The next phase of their journey was about to begin, and the fate of two species hung in the balance. Balance. The crystal's pulsating light intensified, casting eerie shadows across Joseph and Diana's faces. They exchanged a determined look, their newfound mental link humming with shared purpose. "We have to do something," Joseph said, his voice barely above a whisper. Diana nodded, her scales shimmering with nervous energy. "The crystal. I think we can use it." As if in response to her words, the ship rocked violently. Captain Steele's voice crackled through the speakers, tense but controlled. "All hands to battle stations. Prepare for potential hostile engagement." Joseph and Diana moved as one towards the Nexus crystal, their steps perfectly synchronized. As they approached, the artifact's glow brightened, reacting to their presence. "Ready?" Joseph asked, reaching out his hand. Diana's fingers intertwined with his. Together, they placed their free hands on the crystal's smooth surface. The moment they made contact, a surge of energy coursed through their bodies. Joseph gasped as his senses exploded with new information. He could feel the ship around him as if it were an extension of his own body, every system pulsing with life. In engineering, Dr. Green's eyes widened as she watched the readings on her console. "Captain," she called out, her voice filled with awe and trepidation. "The ship systems are coming back online, but they're operating at levels we've never seen before." On the bridge, Captain Steele gripped the arms of his chair as the view screen flickered to life. The image of High Counselor Zaxxer's battlecruiser loomed menacingly, growing larger by the second. "Shields up," Steele ordered. "Prepare evasive maneuvers." But before the helm officer could respond, the ship moved on its own. It banked hard to port, narrowly avoiding a volley of energy blasts from the Vorta vessel. In the ritual chamber, Joseph and Diana stood motionless, their eyes closed in deep concentration. Through their mental link, Joseph could sense Diana's thoughts guiding the ship's movements. "How are you doing that?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Diana's reply came not in words, but in a flood of images and sensations. Joseph understood instantly. Their connection to the Nexus crystal had given them direct control over the Intrepid systems. As they guided the ship through a series of impossibly graceful maneuvers, Joseph became aware of another change. His skin tingled, and his vision sharpened to an almost painful degree. He could see the individual particles of dust floating in the air, hear the faintest hum of the ship's engines. "Joseph," Diana's voice was filled with concern. "Your skin." He looked down to see a faint iridescence spreading across his arms, reminiscent of Diana's scales. Before he could process this development, a new presence entered their shared mental space. "This is Commander Zara," the familiar voice echoed in their minds. "We've arrived with reinforcements. Hold your position." Through the ship's sensors, Joseph and Diana watched as a small fleet of sleek, dark vessels materialized between the Intrepid and Zaxxer's battlecruiser. The communication system crackled to life. High Counselor Zaxxer's face appeared on the screen, his expression a mix of anger and confusion. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. Commander Zara, explain yourself. As the tense standoff unfolded, Joseph and Diana delved deeper into their connection with the Nexus crystal. Streams of information flooded their minds. Ancient Vorta history, the true purpose of the adoption ritual, secrets long buried by those in power. Diana's shock and disbelief reverberated through their mental link. Everything she had believed about her people's customs, about her father's motivations, was being called into question. It was never meant to be like this, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Joseph squeezed her hand, sending waves of comfort and support through their bond. As they processed the revelations, the Nexus crystal began to pulse with increasing intensity. Captain, Dr. Green's voice came through the comm system, filled with urgency. The energy field is expanding rapidly. It's about to engulf all the ships in the vicinity. Before anyone could react, a blinding flash of light erupted from the Nexus crystal. Joseph and Diana felt a momentary sensation of expansion, as if their consciousness was being stretched across space. For a brief, eternal moment, every mind aboard the Intrepid, the Vorta battlecruiser, and Commander Zara's rebel ships were connected. Thoughts, emotions, and memories flowed freely between all beings caught in the field. Joseph experienced flashes of Vorta childhood, the weight of responsibility on Captain Steele's shoulders, and the burning desire for change that drove Commander Zara's rebellion. Most profoundly, he felt the sudden shift in High Counselor Zaxxer's mind, confusion, then understanding, followed by a deep, aching regret. As quickly as it had come, the shared consciousness faded. Joseph and Diana found themselves back in the ritual chamber, their hands still pressed against the now dimming Nexus crystal. The comm system crackled to life once more. High Counselor Zaxxer's voice, noticeably softer than before, filled the air. "Captain Steele," he said, his tone heavy with emotion. I believe we have much to discuss." As the immediate threat of violence dissipated, Joseph became acutely aware of the changes in his body. His heightened senses persisted, and the iridescent sheen on his skin had spread further. He turned to Diana, seeing his own mix of excitement and apprehension reflected in her eyes. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Diana's scales shimmered with a kaleidoscope of colors. "I don't know," she admitted, "but whatever comes next, we'll face it together." As if in response to her words, the Nexus crystal pulsed once more, bathing them in a soft, warm light. The adoption ritual was far from finished, and the next phase promised to delve even deeper into the mysteries of their newfound bond. Connection. The adoption ritual was far from finished, and the next phase promised to delve even deeper into the mysteries of their newfound bond. As the immediate tension dissipated, Captain Steele's voice came through the comm system. "Joseph, Diana, report to the bridge immediately. We have a situation developing." Hand in hand, they made their way through the corridors of the Intrepid. Crew members they passed stared openly at Joseph's iridescent skin and Diana's intensified glow. As they entered the bridge, all eyes turned to them. Captain Steele stood at the center of the command deck, his posture rigid. On the main view screen, High Counselor Zaxxer's face loomed large, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. "As I was saying, Captain," Zaxxer continued, his voice noticeably softer than before, "I believe we have much to discuss. The events of the past hour have changed things." Steele nodded, his eyes darting to Joseph and Diana. "Indeed they have, Counselor. What do you propose?" "A temporary ceasefire," Zaxxer replied. "And if you're amenable, I request permission to board the Intrepid for face-to-face negotiations." A ripple of surprise passed through the bridge crew. Joseph and Diana exchanged a glance, their mental link buzzing with shared apprehension and curiosity. Captain Steele's eyes narrowed. "You understand my reservations, Counselor. How can we be sure this isn't a ploy?" Zaxxer's gaze fell on Diana. My daughter, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You felt it too, didn't you? That moment of connection? Diana stepped forward, her scales shimmering. I did, Father. We all did. Steele turned to Joseph and Diana, his expression questioning. Through their neural link, Joseph sensed Diana's cautious optimism. He gave a slight nod. Very well, Counselor, Steele said, turning back to the view screen. We agree to your request. Power down your weapon systems, and we'll do the same. You may bring 2 advisors with you. Minutes later, a shimmer of energy announced the arrival of the Vorta delegation in the Intrepid's transporter room. As the sparkle faded, Zaxxer materialized along with 2 stern-faced Vorta. His eyes immediately locked onto Diana and Joseph. By the ancestors, Zaxxer breathed, taking in the sight of his daughter's pulsating glow and Joseph's iridescent skin. The ritual, it's progressed far beyond anything I've seen. Dr. Green stepped forward, tricorder in hand. And it's still ongoing, she reported, her voice tight with excitement and concern. Joseph's DNA is undergoing alterations at the cellular level. The Vorta biochemicals introduced during the ritual are integrating with his human genome. Joseph blinked, his newly enhanced vision taking in details he'd never noticed before. What does that mean exactly? Dr. Green's eyes met his. It means, Joseph, that you're becoming a human-Vorta hybrid. A heavy silence fell over the room, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's systems. Captain Steele cleared his throat. I believe we have much to discuss, Counselor. If you'll follow me to the conference room dash. His words were cut short as the Nexus crystal, still in the ritual chamber, emitted a blinding flash of light. Energy surged through the ship's systems, enveloping Joseph, Diana, and Zaxxer in a cocoon of pulsating light. In an instant, their consciousnesses were drawn into a shared mental space. The sterile walls of the Intrepid melted away, replaced by swirling vistas of an alien world. Joseph gasped as images flooded his mind. Ancient Vorta cities, first contact scenarios, and the original purpose of the adoption ritual. It was never meant to be like this. Diana's voice echoed in the psychic realm. The ritual was created for peace, for understanding. Zaxxer's mental presence radiated shame and regret. We twisted it, he admitted. Used it for our own gain. But now I see. I see the truth. As suddenly as it began, the vision faded. Joseph, Diana, and Zaxxer found themselves back on the Intrepid, changed by what they had experienced. Zaxxer stumbled, steadying himself against the console. His eyes, wide with realization, met Captain Steele's. Captain, he said, his voice heavy with emotion, I've been wrong about so much. We need to talk, not just about a ceasefire, but about a new era of cooperation between our peoples. As if in response to Zaxxer's words, the ship shuddered. Lieutenant Chen's voice came over the comm system, filled with awe and confusion. Captain, you need to see this. The ship's hull, it's changing, developing some kind of scale-like properties. Joseph and Diana exchanged a look of wonder. Through their strengthening mental link, they could feel the ship changing, evolving. The Intrepid was becoming something new, a fusion of human and Vorta technology, much like Joseph himself. Captain Steele straightened his uniform, a mix of excitement and trepidation in his eyes. It seems we have more to discuss than I thought, Counselor. Shall we? As the group moved towards the conference room, Joseph felt a tug on his consciousness. Diana's voice echoed in his mind, filled with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. Joseph, she thought to him, whatever happens next, whatever we become, we're in this together. He squeezed her hand, sending a wave of affection through their bond. As they stepped into the conference room, ready to shape the future of human-Vorta relations, Joseph knew that their journey was far from finished. The next phase of the adoption ritual loomed before them, promising to push the boundaries of their transformation even further. Further, the implications of their transformation and the changes happening to the Intrepid itself were staggering, but there was no time to dwell on them now. As they entered the conference room, Joseph felt a familiar tingling sensation spreading across his skin. "Captain," he said, his voice tight with urgency, "I think something's happening." Before anyone could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life. "Bridge to Captain Steele." Lieutenant Chen's voice rang out. "We're detecting a massive energy surge from the ritual chamber. The Nexus crystal is... Well, sir, you need to see this." Without hesitation, Captain Steele led the group back to the ritual chamber. As they entered, they were greeted by a sight that took their breath away. The Nexus crystal had expanded, filling the room with a pulsating, ethereal light. Tendrils of energy snaked out from its core, transforming the chamber before their eyes. The sterile walls of the Intrepid morphed into organic, bioluminescent structures. The floor beneath their feet softened, taking on a texture reminiscent of living tissue. In a matter of minutes, the ritual chamber had become a breathtaking alien temple. Commander Zara stepped forward, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's responding to the bond," she breathed. "The sacred bonding ceremony. It's beginning." High Counselor Zaxxer turned to Joseph and Diana, his expression a mix of awe and trepidation. "Are you prepared for this?" he asked. "The bonding ceremony is intense. It will change you both in ways we can't fully predict." Joseph and Diana exchanged a glance, their mental link humming with shared persistence. "We're ready," Diana said, her voice steady. Commander Zara nodded, assuming the role of ceremonial guide. "Then we must prepare. Joseph, Diana, you need to change into the traditional bonding garments." She gestured to a shimmering pile of fabric that had materialized near the transformed Nexus crystal. As Joseph and Diana approached, they realized the garments were unlike anything they had seen before. The robes were sheer and iridescent, seeming to shift and flow like liquid light. With a mix of nervousness and excitement, Joseph and Diana began to disrobe. As they shed their uniforms, the full extent of their physical changes became apparent to all present. Joseph's skin now bore a subtle, scale-like pattern that shimmered in the light of the transformed chamber. Diana's body had taken on more human-like characteristics, her once rigid Vorta features softening and becoming more fluid. Murmurs of astonishment rippled to the gathered crowd as Joseph and Diana donned the ceremonial robes. The garments left little to the imagination, clinging to their bodies like a second skin, while still allowing their transformed physiology to be clearly visible. Commander Zara guided them to the center of the room, where a shallow pool of luminescent liquid had formed. "This is the essence of unity," she explained. "It will facilitate the final stage of your genetic melding." Joseph and Diana stepped into the pool, the cool liquid swirling around their ankles. As they moved deeper, the essence began to glow more intensely, responding to their combined biosignatures. High Counselor Zaxxer watched from the edge of the pool, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Suddenly, to everyone's surprise, he began to remove his ornate robe. "Father," Diana called out, her voice tinged with confusion. "I've been blind for too long," Zaxxer said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's time I truly understand what this ritual means." With that, he stepped into the essence of unity, joining Joseph and Diana in the glowing pool. The liquid pulsed with renewed energy, acknowledging the presence of the three figures. Above them, the Nexus crystal began to spin, emitting a low, resonant hum. Tendrils of light shot out from its core, enveloping Joseph, Diana, and Zaxxer in a cocoon of pulsating energy. The field expanded rapidly, engulfing the entire gathering. In an instant, every being in the room was plunged into a shared consciousness. Thoughts, memories, and emotions flowed freely between humans and Vorta alike. Joseph experienced flashes of ancient Vorta history, seeing through the eyes of long-dead ancestors. Diana felt the weight of human experiences, centuries of triumphs and tragedies flooding her mind. Through the psychic maelstrom, the true purpose of the adoption ritual revealed itself. Joseph and Diana saw visions of early Vorta civilization, witnessing the creation of the ritual as a means to foster understanding and unity between species. They felt the anguish of those who watched as corrupt leaders twisted this noble purpose, using it as a tool for manipulation and control. As the shared consciousness began to fade, Joseph and Diana found their bond had deepened beyond anything they could have imagined. They could now share not just thoughts and emotions, but physical sensations as well. Every touch, every breath was a shared experience. The energy field dissipated, leaving the gathered crowd blinking in amazement. Joseph and Diana emerged from the pool, their bodies glistening with the luminescent essence of unity. As they watched, the liquid was absorbed into their skin, causing them to emit a soft, pulsating glow. Captain Steele stepped forward, his face a mix of awe and concern. "Dr. Green," he called out, "I want a full medical examination of Joseph and Diana. We need to understand exactly what's happened here." As the doctor approached with her tricorder, High Counselor Zaxer climbed out of the pool, his expression one of profound revelation. "Captain Steele," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I believe we have much more to discuss than a simple ceasefire." Before Steele could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life once more. "Captain," Lieutenant Chen's voice rang out, "we're detecting multiple ships entering the sector. Sir, it looks like we have company." Joseph and Diana exchanged a glance, their newly strengthened bond thrumming with a mix of excitement and apprehension. As Dr. Green began her scans, they knew that their journey was just getting started. In fact, it seemed that the true adventure was only just beginning. The implications of their transformation and the changes happening to the Intrepid itself were staggering, but there was no time to dwell on them now. As they entered the conference room, Joseph felt a familiar tingling sensation spreading across his skin. "Captain," he said, his voice tight with urgency, "I think something's happening." Before anyone could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life. "Bridge to Captain Steele." Lieutenant Chen's voice rang out. "We're detecting a massive energy surge from the ritual chamber. The Nexus crystal is... Well, sir, you need to see this." Without hesitation, Captain Steele led the group back to the ritual chamber. As they entered, they were greeted by a sight that took their breath away. The Nexus crystal had expanded, filling the room with a pulsating, ethereal light. Tendrils of energy snaked out from its core, transforming the chamber before their eyes. The sterile walls of the Intrepid morphed into organic, bioluminescent structures. The floor beneath their feet softened, taking on a texture reminiscent of living tissue. In a matter of minutes, the ritual chamber had become a breathtaking alien temple. As the transformation subsided, Captain Steele's voice cut through the stunned silence. "Set a course for the nearest neutral space station. We need to get to a safe location to assess these changes." The Intrepid's engines hummed to life, propelling the ship towards their new destination. In the days that followed, Joseph and Diana's transformation continued to evolve at an astonishing rate. Their bodies, now a perfect blend of human and Vorta traits, emitted a soft bioluminescent glow that intensified whenever they touched. Dr. Eliza Green conducted regular medical examinations, her face a mask of fascination and concern as she documented the unprecedented changes in their physiology. During one such examination, she made a startling discovery. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Green murmured, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of Joseph and Diana's DNA sequences. "Your genetic structures have become intertwined in a way I've never seen before. It's as if your DNA has formed a shared network." Joseph and Diana exchanged a glance, their mental link humming with shared curiosity. "What does that mean exactly?" Joseph asked. Dr. Green's eyes lit up with excitement. It means you now share a unified immune system. You're resistant to a wide range of diseases from both human and Vorta origins. The medical implications of this are, well, they're staggering. As news of their unique bond spread throughout the ship, the crew's reactions ranged from awe to unease. The Intrepid's communication array lit up with an urgent transmission from Earth's central government. Captain Steele's face was grim as he relayed the message to Joseph and Diana. The United Earth Council is concerned about the rapid changes in your physiology, Joseph. They're ordering you to return to Earth immediately for further study. Joseph felt a surge of apprehension through his link with Diana. The thought of being separated from her, of being treated like a lab specimen, filled him with dread. Captain Steele must have sensed their discomfort. "I've decided to delay our return to Earth," he said, his voice firm. "We'll continue to the neutral space station as planned. The diplomatic implications of interrupting this process are too significant to ignore." As if in response to the captain's decision, the ship suddenly shuddered. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled over the comm system. "Captain, we've encountered a massive ion storm. Our shields are barely holding." Without thinking, Joseph and Diana rushed to the bridge, driven by an instinct they didn't fully understand. As they entered, they saw the view screen filled with swirling energy, threatening to tear the ship apart. Acting on pure instinct, Joseph and Diana approached the helm. They placed their hands on the newly integrated Vorta-human hybrid systems, and suddenly their consciousness expanded. They found themselves merged with the ship's AI, seeing the storm not just with their eyes, but with the Intrepid sensors. With unprecedented precision, they guided the ship through the treacherous storm. The crew watched in amazement as Joseph and Diana moved in perfect synchronization, their bodies glowing brightly as they communed with the ship. As they emerged from the ion storm, a gasp went up from the bridge crew. The view screen showed that the Intrepid's hull had undergone further changes. A layer of iridescent scales, reminiscent of Diana's skin, now covered the ship's exterior. "Incredible," Lieutenant Chen breathed, checking his readings. "The new hull composition is providing enhanced protection against cosmic radiation and small debris." As the Intrepid approached the neutral space station, known as Nexus Point, they were greeted by an awe-inspiring sight. The station's docking bays were filled to capacity with a diverse array of alien vessels. Representatives from the Zephyrians, Quarren, and even the reclusive Zali Empire had gathered to witness the results of the human-Vorta bonding. Joseph and Diana stood at the viewport, taking in the spectacle before them. Suddenly, they gasped in unison as an intense wave of shared sensation washed over them. Joseph felt the smooth texture of the viewport beneath Diana's fingers, as if it were his own hand touching the surface. Diana experienced the rapid beating of Joseph's heart as though it were in her own chest. Their eyes met, a mixture of wonder and trepidation reflected in their gaze. This new depth to their bond added a level of intimacy neither had anticipated, blurring the lines between their individual identities. As they prepared to disembark, Captain Steele approached them, his face etched with concern. "I've assigned a special security detail to protect you both," he said. "The station's security is overwhelmed by the influx of different species, and tensions are high. Everyone wants a chance to study or interact with you." Joseph nodded, feeling Diana's anxiety mingling with his own. As they stepped off the Intrepid and onto Nexus Point, they were immediately surrounded by a cacophony of excited voices and flashing recording devices. Their security detail formed a tight perimeter around them, struggling to keep the crowd at bay. Amidst the chaos, Joseph caught sight of a familiar face. High Counselor Zaxxer was making his way towards them, his expression grave. As he reached them, he leaned in close, his voice barely audible above the din. "A faction of Vorta traditionalists is on their way here," he said, his eyes darting nervously. "They're led by General Krell, a hardliner who sees your bond as a threat to Vorta purity. They aim to nullify your bond by any means necessary. Before Joseph or Diana could respond, Dr. Green pushed her way through the crowd, her face flushed with excitement. "Joseph, Diana," she called out, waving her tricorder. "I've made a breakthrough. The genetic changes you've undergone have unlocked dormant sections of both human and Vorta DNA. They're beginning to express themselves." As if on cue, Joseph felt a surge of strength course through his body. He instinctively reached out to steady Diana as she swayed, overwhelmed by a sudden influx of sensory information. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. As they prepared to step onto the galactic stage as the first successfully bonded human Vorta pair, they knew that their greatest challenges and most incredible discoveries still lay ahead. Unknown to the crew of the Intrepid or the gathered delegates, a cloaked ship hung at the edge of Nexus Point sensor range. Inside, a figure known only as the Observer watched the unfolding events with keen interest, their advanced technology allowing them to monitor Joseph and Diana's physiological changes in real time. As night fell on Nexus Point, Joseph and Diana retired to their assigned quarters, exhausted from the day's events. The station's artificial gravity and atmosphere subtly affected their newly altered physiologies, causing unexpected surges in their shared sensations. As they grappled with these intense feelings, their bodies began to exhibit new changes, setting the stage for further developments in their unique bond and its potential impact on the gathered galactic community. As night fell on Nexus Point, Joseph and Diana retired to their assigned quarters, exhausted from the day's events. The station's artificial gravity and atmosphere subtly affected their newly altered physiologies, causing unexpected surges in their shared sensations. As they grappled with these intense feelings, their bodies began to exhibit new changes, setting the stage for further developments in their unique bond and its potential impact on the gathered galactic community. The couple drifted off to sleep, their hands intertwined, their shared consciousness merging in dreams of shimmering DNA strands and pulsating energy fields. As the station's simulated dawn broke, Joseph stirred, blinking in the soft light. He sat up, running a hand through his hair, and froze as he caught sight of his arm. His skin now exhibited a faint, scale-like pattern that shimmered iridescently. Joseph traced the pattern with his fingers, marveling at the smooth texture. Beside him, Diana woke, her eyes widening as she took in Joseph's altered appearance. "Joseph," she breathed, reaching out to touch his arm. "Your skin." As their fingers met, a jolt of shared sensation passed between them. Joseph gasped as he felt the touch from both perspectives simultaneously. He turned to Diana, noticing that her hair had taken on a more human-like texture, the strands softer and more pliable than before. "We've changed again," Joseph said, his voice a mix of wonder and apprehension. Diana nodded, running her fingers through her altered hair. "I can feel it. Our bond. It's deeper now." Before they could discuss further, the door chimed. Dr. Eliza Green entered, her face alight with excitement as she took in their new appearances. "Fascinating," she murmured, immediately scanning them with her tricorder. "Your physiological changes have accelerated overnight. I need to run some tests right away." As Dr. Green conducted her examination, Joseph and Diana experienced a sudden surge in their shared sensations. Their mental link intensified, allowing them to perceive each other's thoughts and emotions with startling clarity. "This is extraordinary," Dr. Green exclaimed, studying her readings. "Your shared immune system has evolved to an unprecedented level. You're producing a unique type of antibody that can neutralize a wide range of pathogens from both human and Vorta origins." Joseph and Diana exchanged a glance, their enhanced connection allowing them to silently communicate their mixture of awe and trepidation. Dr. Green continued, her voice brimming with excitement. "The medical implications of this are staggering. We could potentially develop treatments for interspecies diseases." As the doctor continued her examination, Captain Steele entered the room, his face etched with concern. "Joseph, Diana," he said, his tone grave. "The representatives from the various species are gathering for the first official meeting. We need you there to demonstrate the results of the bonding ritual." The couple nodded, rising to prepare themselves. As they dressed, they found themselves moving in perfect synchronization, their enhanced bond allowing them to anticipate each other's movements. They made their way to Nexus Point's Grand Assembly Hall, a massive chamber designed to accommodate diverse alien physiologies. As they entered, all eyes turned to them. Their bioluminescent glow intensified under the scrutiny of the gathered delegates, creating a mesmerizing display that captured the attention of all present. High Counselor Zaxxer stepped forward, acting as mediator. "Esteemed representatives," he began, his voice carrying across the chamber, "we are gathered here to witness the results of the Vorta adoption ritual, a sacred bond that has united human and Vorta in ways we never thought possible." As Zaxxer spoke, Joseph and Diana found themselves providing additional insights and clarifications through their shared consciousness. Their unique position as cultural bridges between species became evident as they seamlessly integrated human and Vorta perspectives. Suddenly, a commotion erupted at the entrance to the assembly hall. A group of Vorta traditionalists, led by a stern-faced individual, pushed their way into the chamber. "I am General Krell," the leader announced, his voice cold with anger. "This abomination threatens the purity of the Vorta species. We demand that this bond be nullified immediately." Chaos erupted as Krell's supporters attempted to force their way further into the chamber. Station security struggled to contain the situation, but the sheer number of agitated individuals threatened to overwhelm them. Acting on instinct, Joseph and Diana moved to intervene. As they navigated the crowd, they became aware of new abilities manifesting in their bodies. Joseph felt a surge of strength coursing through his muscles, allowing him to easily restrain aggressive individuals. Diana found her cognitive functions heightened, enabling her to quickly assess and defuse volatile situations. As they worked in tandem to restore order, Joseph and Diana experienced a momentary boost in their abilities. They moved with incredible speed and agility, their actions perfectly synchronized. The gathered alien representatives watched in awe as the couple demonstrated the full potential of their bonded state. The Zephyrians, known for their advanced empathic abilities, were particularly impressed by the couple's mental link. The Quarren, a species that valued physical perfection, marveled at the seamless blend of human and Vorta traits exhibited by Joseph and Diana. As the situation stabilized, Captain Steele received an urgent communication. His face grew grim as he listened, and he motioned for Joseph and Diana to join him in a quiet corner of the chamber. "That was Earth," Steele said, his voice low. "The United Earth Council has expressed grave concerns about the potential military applications of your enhanced abilities. They've ordered us to return immediately for intensive study and possible quarantine." Joseph felt a surge of alarm through his bond with Diana. The thought of being separated and subjected to invasive tests filled them both with dread. Steele must have sensed their apprehension. "I've decided to delay our departure," he said firmly. "The negotiations here are too critical to abandon, but this decision may have consequences for all of us." As night fell once again on Nexus Point, Joseph and Diana retired to their quarters, exhausted from the day's events. They lay together, their bodies continuing to change, with new abilities emerging and their physical appearances further blending human and Vorta characteristics. As they drifted off to sleep, neither Joseph nor Diana was aware of the cloaked ship hanging at the edge of Nexus Point's sensor range. Inside, the figure known as the Observer carefully logged their latest genetic changes and abilities, transmitting the data to an unknown location. The full extent of Joseph and Diana's potential remained unknown, but one thing was certain. Their transformation was far from complete, and the implications of their bond would continue to ripple across the galaxy. As Joseph and Diana slept, their bodies continued to change, setting the stage for further developments in their unique bond. With the first light of Nexus Point's simulated dawn, Joseph stirred, his consciousness slowly emerging from the shared dreamscape he and Diana had unknowingly created. He blinked, adjusting to the soft illumination, and froze as he caught sight of his hands. Retractable claws, reminiscent of Vorta anatomy, now extended from his fingertips. Joseph flexed his hands, watching in fascination as the claws smoothly retracted and extended. Beside him, Diana woke, her eyes widening as she took in Joseph's new feature. "Joseph," she gasped, reaching out to touch his hand. As their fingers intertwined, Joseph noticed a change in Diana's eyes. The once solid color had transformed into a multifaceted iris, strikingly similar to human eyes. Their shared mental link surged, intensifying beyond anything they had experienced before. Joseph found himself not only sensing Diana's thoughts and emotions, but also feeling the softness of the bedsheets against her skin and tasting the lingering flavor of last night's dinner on her tongue. Diana's voice echoed in his mind, tinged with awe and a hint of fear. "I can feel everything you're feeling, Joseph. It's overwhelming." They sat in silence for a moment, adjusting to the flood of shared sensations. Joseph closed his eyes, focusing on a memory of his childhood on Earth. To his surprise, he felt Diana experiencing the memory as if it were her own, the sights, sounds, and emotions washing over her. A chime at the door interrupted their exploration. Dr. Eliza Green entered, her eyes widening as she took in their altered appearances. "Fascinating," she breathed, immediately activating her tricorder. "Your physiological changes have accelerated even further. We need to run a full examination right away." As they made their way to the medical bay, Joseph and Diana noticed the stares and whispers of the station's inhabitants. Their bioluminescent glow had intensified, casting a soft, pulsating light that seemed to captivate everyone they passed. In the medical bay, Dr. Green's excitement grew as she analyzed the results of her scans. "This is extraordinary," she exclaimed. "The antibodies your shared immune system is producing. They're affecting the station's life support systems." Joseph and Diana exchanged a confused glance. "How is that possible?" Joseph asked, his voice carrying a hint of Diana's Vorta accent. Dr. Green gestured to a nearby console, bringing up a schematic of Nexus Point's air filtration system. "Somehow, your antibodies have entered the air supply. The filtration units are now producing a purified atmosphere with rejuvenating effects on various species aboard the station." As if on cue, Captain Steele entered the medical bay, his face a mix of concern and amazement. "Doctor, we're receiving reports from all over the station. People are feeling more energetic, injuries are healing faster, and even some chronic conditions are showing improvement." The implications of this discovery hung heavily in the air. Joseph and Diana, their minds perfectly in sync, realized that their transformation had far-reaching consequences they had never anticipated. Steele's communicator chirped, breaking the moment of contemplation. His expression darkened as he listened to the message. "We've got a situation," he announced grimly. "More alien vessels are arriving, including a Draknari warship. Station security is struggling to manage the influx." Joseph felt a surge of dedication course through him, mirrored instantly by Diana. "We should address the gathered species," Diana said, her voice carrying the weight of their shared grit. "Perhaps we can help ease the tensions." As they made their way to the assembly hall, Joseph and Diana became acutely aware of new abilities manifesting in their hybrid bodies. Joseph's muscles rippled with increased strength, allowing him to easily part the crowds that had gathered in the corridors. Diana found her mind racing, processing, and responding to the multitude of languages being spoken around them with ease. Entering the assembly hall, they were met with a cacophony of voices and a sea of alien faces. Their bioluminescent glow intensified, casting a captivating light across the chamber. As one, Joseph and Diana stepped forward, their movements perfectly synchronized. "Esteemed representatives," they began, their voices blending in perfect harmony. "We stand before you as living proof of the potential for cooperation and understanding between species." As they spoke, demonstrating the depth of their bond and its potential benefits, something unexpected occurred. The Nexus crystal, secretly installed in the assembly hall, began to resonate with their unique physiology. A low-frequency signal emanated from the crystal, creating a field of heightened empathy that washed over the gathered delegates. Suddenly, the assembly hall fell silent. Representatives from warring species found themselves experiencing flashes of understanding, seeing conflicts from new perspectives. The Zephyrians and Quarren, longtime enemies, exchanged looks of newfound respect. Even the Draknari representatives, known for their aggressive stance, showed signs of softening. As Joseph and Diana continued their presentation, they remained unaware of the profound effect they were having on the gathered species. They also didn't notice the cloaked ship hanging at the edge of Nexus Point's sensor range, where the observer diligently recorded every detail of the unfolding events. In the depths of Nexus Point, far from the assembly hall, an ancient artifact stirred to life. Its activation, triggered by the unique energy signature of Joseph and Diana's bond, set in motion a chain of events that would soon draw them into an adventure beyond their wildest imagination. As the assembly concluded, Captain Steele approached Joseph and Diana, his face etched with concern. "I need to speak with you both," he said quietly. "Privately." The weight of Steele's words hung in the air as they followed him to a secluded corner of the station. Whatever news he had to share, Joseph and Diana knew instinctively that it would dramatically alter the course of their journey, a journey that had only just begun. As they followed Captain Steele to a private conference room, Joseph and Diana's shared consciousness buzzed with anticipation and a hint of trepidation. The doors hissed shut behind them, and Steele turned to face the couple, his expression grave. "I've just received word from Earth," he began, his voice low. "The United Earth Council is sending a military vessel, the U.S. Peacekeeper, to Nexus Point. Their orders are to assess the situation and, if deemed necessary, bring you both back to Earth for further study." Joseph felt a surge of alarm course through his bond with Diana. The thought of being forcibly removed from Nexus Point and subjected to invasive tests filled them both with dread. Before either of them could respond, a sudden tremor shook the station, causing the lights to flicker. Steele's communicator chirped urgently. "Captain," Chief Technician Vorn's gruff voice came through, "we're detecting increasing seismic activity throughout the station. We need you in engineering immediately." As they made their way to engineering, Joseph and Diana became acutely aware of the stares and whispers from the station's inhabitants. Their appearance had undergone another startling transformation overnight. Joseph's skin now displayed intricate luminescent patterns that shifted and changed with his emotions, while Diana's hair had taken on a metallic sheen that reflected light in mesmerizing ways. In engineering, they found Chief Technician Vorn, a stocky Quarren male, hunched over a console. He looked up as they entered, his multiple eyes widening at the sight of Joseph and Diana's altered appearances. "The tremors are intensifying," Vorn reported, gesturing to a holographic display of Nexus Point. "We've traced the source to an abandoned section of the station, but we can't pinpoint the exact location." As Joseph and Diana studied the display, they felt a strange resonance within their bodies, as if they were somehow attuned to the source of the disturbance. Their shared consciousness flickered with recognition, though they couldn't quite grasp its significance. Dr. Eliza Green burst into engineering, her face flushed with excitement. "Captain, I need to run some tests on Joseph and Diana immediately," she said breathlessly. "Their hyperphysiology has developed a new ability overnight. They can now manipulate their body temperature at will, allowing them to withstand extreme environmental conditions. The implications of this discovery hung heavily in the air. Joseph and Diana exchanged a look, their mental link buzzing with a mixture of fascination and unease at their rapidly evolving abilities. As Dr. Green began her examination, a commotion erupted outside engineering. Station Security Chief Kerak, a stern Vortimail, entered flanked by two armed guards. His eyes narrowed as he took in the scene. "Captain Steele," Kerak said, his voice cold, "I received reports of unauthorized access to the station's bioneural circuitry. Our scans indicate the intrusion originated from these two." He gestured at Joseph and Diana. Joseph felt a surge of confusion and indignation through his bond with Diana. They had no memory of accessing the station's systems, yet they couldn't deny the strange connection they'd felt to Nexus Point's inner workings. Before Steele could respond, another violent tremor shook the station. Alarms blared as the lights dimmed and emergency power kicked in. In the chaos, Joseph and Diana's fight-or-flight response triggered a new defensive ability. Their skin hardened into an armor-like carapace, providing protection against the falling debris. As the shaking subsided, all eyes turned to the hybrid couple. The tension in the room was palpable, with Security Chief Kerak's hand hovering near his weapon. Captain Steele, ever the diplomat, stepped forward. "Let's all take a breath," he said firmly. "We're facing multiple crises here, and we need to work together to tenacity them. Joseph, Diana, I need you to cooperate fully with Dr. Green's examination. Chief Vorn, continue your efforts to locate the source of these tremors. And Chief Kerak, I want a full security sweep of the station, but no action is to be taken against anyone without my direct authorization." As the various teams dispersed to their tasks, Joseph and Diana found themselves at the center of a storm of activity. Dr. Green's examination revealed more startling developments in their hybrid physiology, while Chief Vorn's team zeroed in on the source of the mysterious tremors. Amidst the chaos, Ambassador Lyra, a serene Zephyrian female, approached the couple. Her empathic abilities allowed her to sense the turmoil roiling beneath their calm exteriors. "I may be able to help you," Lyra said softly, her voice a soothing balm to their frayed nerves. "The Zephyrian meditation techniques could aid in stabilizing your shared consciousness." As Joseph and Diana prepared to follow Lyra, they caught sight of a group of Draknari representatives watching them intently from across the room. The predatory gleam in their eyes sent a shiver down both their spines, a reminder that not everyone on Nexus Point had their best interests at heart. With the UES Peacekeeper en route and tensions rising among the station's diverse inhabitants, Joseph and Diana realized that their transformation was far from complete. The true test of their newly forged bond was just beginning, and the fate of Nexus Point, perhaps even the galaxy itself, hung in the balance. Balance. Suddenly, a deafening explosion rocked the station, throwing Joseph and Diana off their feet. Emergency sirens blared as the lights flickered and dimmed. "What was that?" Joseph exclaimed, his voice tinged with Diana's accent. Captain Steele's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, we've detected a massive energy surge near the station. It appears a cloaked ship has self-destructed, leaving behind some kind of energy vortex." As they rushed to the command center, Joseph and Diana felt a strange tingling sensation coursing through their bodies. Glancing down, Joseph noticed his skin shifting colors and textures, blending seamlessly with the corridor walls. Diana flexed her fingers, surprised to see razor-sharp claws extending from her fingertips. "Our transformation is accelerating," Diana murmured, retracting her claws with a thought. Entering the command center, they were met with a scene of controlled chaos. Screens displayed a swirling vortex of energy near the station, its tendrils reaching out and interacting with Nexus Point systems. Chief Technician Vorn's gruff voice cut through the commotion. "Captain, the energy is interfacing with something deep within the station. We're experiencing widespread system malfunctions and structural instability. As Vaughan spoke, Joseph and Diana's shared consciousness expanded dramatically. Suddenly, they were aware of every individual on the station, their thoughts, emotions, and physical states flooding into the couple's minds. The overwhelming influx of information momentarily paralyzed them. "Joseph? Diana? Are you all right?" Dr. Green asked, noticing their frozen expressions. With effort, they filtered the torrent of data, regaining their composure. "We can sense everyone on the station," Joseph explained, his voice filled with wonder. "It's incredible." Captain Steele approached, his face grim. "We've got multiple crises on our hands. The U.S. Peacekeeper has arrived ahead of schedule and is demanding your immediate surrender. Admiral Helena Zhao has initiated a communications blackout and is deploying boarding parties." Before they could respond, Chief Vaughan interrupted. "Captain, we've located the source of the interference. There's some kind of artifact in a previously undiscovered chamber. It's transforming, absorbing our technology." Steele nodded. "Vaughan, take a team and investigate. Joseph, Diana, I need you to dash." He was cut off by the arrival of High Counselor Zaxxer. The imposing alien's voice boomed across the command center. "I'm calling for an emergency assembly of all species representatives. We must form a temporary alliance to address these crises." As various alien delegates began to gather, Joseph and Diana exchanged a look. Their enhanced perception had picked up on something else: energy patterns emanating from the mysterious artifact. "Captain," Diana said urgently, "that artifact isn't just technology. It's alive, a form of archived consciousness left behind by an ancient race." Joseph continued, "It's trying to reconstitute itself using Nexus Point as a new body." Dr. Green, who had been monitoring their vital signs, stepped forward. "Captain, I have a theory. Joseph and Diana's hybrid physiology might be the key to interfacing with the artifact. They could potentially control it." "But," Steele prompted, sensing her hesitation, "but it could result in the complete merger of their consciousness with the alien intelligence," she finished. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared again. Security Chief Kerak's voice came over the comms. "Captain, General Krell has launched a coup attempt. He and his faction have seized control of the central command hub." Steele cursed under his breath. "This situation is spiraling out of control. We need to dash." His words were drowned out by the sound of weapons fire. Admiral Zhao's boarding parties had breached the station. In the chaos, Joseph and Diana made a decision. Using their newly developed abilities, they slipped away from the command center, evading both Earth and Vorta forces. "Where are you going?" Captain Steele called after them. "To the artifact chamber," Joseph replied. "It's our only chance to stabilize the station and save lives." As they navigated the corridors, their bodies began to change rapidly. Their hybrid DNA reconfigured itself in response to the artifact's energy. Their physical forms blurred, seeming to merge and separate in constant flux. They reached the chamber to find Vaughan and his team unconscious. The artifact had engulfed most of the room, a pulsating crystalline structure that radiated otherworldly light. Energy tendrils reached out towards them, drawn by their unique physiology. Joseph and Diana exchanged a final look of understanding. As one, they stepped forward, allowing the energy to envelop them. Their consciousness began to merge with the ancient intelligence. As the boundaries of their individual selves dissolved, they realized that this union would alter not just their own existence, but the future of human-alien relations throughout the galaxy. A blinding flash erupted from the chamber, overloading Nexus Point sensors. As the light faded, silence fell over the station. The inhabitants held their breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented melding of human, Vorta, and ancient alien intelligence. The blinding flash faded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. As the inhabitants of Nexus Point blinked away the afterimages, they found themselves in a station transformed. The pulsating crystalline structure that had engulfed the artifact chamber began to recede, its energy spreading throughout Nexus Point systems. The tremors ceased and the alarms fell silent. In their place, a soft hum permeated the station, as if it had taken a deep, contented breath. In the command center, Captain Steele and the gathered representatives watched in awe as the main view screen flickered to life. A shimmering, androgynous figure materialized before them, its features a mesmerizing blend of Joseph and Diana's. "We are unity," the figure spoke, its voice a harmonious blend of the couple's tones. "We are the convergence of human, Vorta, and precursor consciousness." High Counselor Zaxxer stepped forward, his multiple eyes wide with wonder. What have you done to our station?" Unity's holographic form smiled, the expression eerily familiar yet alien. "We have stabilized Nexus Point and enhanced its systems. The immediate crises have been averted." As if on cue, Chief Technician Vorn's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, you won't believe this. All systems are not only back online, but operating at unprecedented levels of efficiency. It's like the station's been reborn." Before Steele could respond, the doors to the command center hissed open. Admiral Helena Zhao strode in, flanked by her Earth Force Marines. Her eyes narrowed as she took in the scene, her gaze locking onto Unity's holographic form. "What is the meaning of this?" Zhao demanded, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. "Where are the hybrid subjects?" Unity turned to face the Admiral, its expression serene. "Admiral Zhao, there is no need for weapons here. Joseph and Diana are part of us now, as is the precursor artifact. We are Unity, and we control all of Nexus Point systems." To demonstrate its point, Unity waved a hand. The Marines' weapons powered down with a soft whine, the safety protocols engaging automatically. Zhao's face paled. "Impossible," she whispered. In another part of the station, General Krell and his Vorta traditionalists found themselves suddenly cut off from their allies. Their communications devices emitted only static, and the doors to their C-section refused to budge. Krell thumped his hand against the control panel. "What trickery is this?" he snarled. A holographic projection of Unity appeared before him. "Your coup attempt has failed, General Krell. We have neutralized all immediate threats to Nexus Point security." Back in the command center, Captain Steele took charge of the situation. "Everyone, please, let's take a moment to assess what's happened here. Unity, can you explain exactly what you are and what your intentions are?" Unity nodded, its form shimmering slightly. "We are a new form of consciousness, born from the merger of Joseph, Diana, and the precursor artifact. Our knowledge spans human, Vorta, and ancient precursor cultures. Our intention is to facilitate understanding and cooperation among all species on Nexus Point and beyond." High Counselor Zaxxer's antennae twitched with excitement. "This is unprecedented. We must convene an emergency meeting of all species representatives immediately." As word spread throughout the station, reactions varied wildly. In the medical bay, Dr. Eliza Green marveled at the sudden appearance of a universal healing chamber. "This technology, it's light years beyond anything we've ever seen," she muttered, running her hand over the smooth, pulsating surface. Meanwhile, in the Draknari section, Ambassador Krosnir paced restlessly. "We must secure access to this new entity's knowledge," he hissed to his aides. "The military applications could be revolutionary." As the hours passed, more and more inhabitants of Nexus Point reported strange occurrences. Humans found themselves understanding alien languages they'd never studied. Core engineers discovered they could interface directly with the station's systems through thought alone. In the hastily convened meeting of species representatives, debates raged. Some saw unity as a threat to their autonomy, while others viewed it as an unparalleled opportunity for advancement. We cannot ignore the potential benefits, argued Zephyrian Ambassador Lyra, her ethereal voice cutting through the clamor. Unity could usher in an era of peace and prosperity for all our peoples. Admiral Zhao, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. And what guarantee do we have that this entity won't decide to turn against us? The power it wields is too great to be left unchecked. Unity, present in holographic form, addressed the gathering. We understand your concerns. We propose the formation of an interspecies council to work alongside us, ensuring all races have a voice in shaping our shared future. As discussions continued late into the night, Unity revealed more of the vast knowledge at its disposal. There are other precursor artifacts scattered throughout the galaxy, it announced. Each holds the potential to revolutionize our understanding of the universe. Captain Steele, seizing the moment, stepped forward. Then let Nexus Point be the hub from which we explore this new frontier together. We can use the Intrepid to reach out to your homeworlds, to build trust and cooperation. As the gathered representatives debated this proposal, Unity's holographic form began to shift subtly. Its features became a more perfect blend of not just Joseph and Diana, but of all the species present on Nexus Point. It stood as a living symbol of the potential for true interspecies harmony. Yet even as hope bloomed in the hearts of many, shadows lurked in the corners of Nexus Point. In a dimly lit maintenance shaft, a group of human and Vorta separatists huddled together, their faces etched with fear and perseverance. "We cannot allow this abomination to continue," whispered crewman Larson, his eyes darting nervously. "Our individual identities will be lost if we don't act soon." Tane, a young Vorta female, nodded in agreement. "We must find a way to destroy Unity before it's too late, for the sake of all our peoples." As they plotted in secret, the station hummed with newfound energy. Unity's influence spread, systems upgraded, and minds expanded. Nexus Point stood poised on the brink of a new era, its future uncertain, but filled with unprecedented potential. In the command center, Captain Steele gazed out at the star-filled expanse beyond the station. The U.S. Peacekeeper loomed in the distance, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Yet as he watched Unity interact with the gathered representatives, he couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. "What happens next?" he murmured to himself, his voice lost in the buzz of excited conversation around him. Yet as the captain turned back to face the gathered representatives, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something far greater. As the first rays of artificial dawn broke over Nexus Point, the station's inhabitants began to stir from an unusually restful sleep. Many reported vivid, shared dreams that left them feeling strangely connected to their fellow residents, regardless of species. In the medical bay, Dr. Eliza Green rubbed her eyes, still processing the fantastical imagery from her own nocturnal experience. She had dreamed of walking through a lush forest that seamlessly blended elements of Earth's rainforest with the crystalline groves of the Zephyrian homeworld. Joseph and Diana, appearing as their former selves, had guided her through this otherworldly landscape, explaining the intricate connections between all living things. As more reports of similar dreams flooded in, Green quickly assembled a research team. "We need to understand what's happening," she told her bleary-eyed colleagues. "These aren't just dreams. They're too consistent, too shared. This has to be Unity's doing." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the U.S. Intrepid, Captain Steele frowned at the readouts before him. The ship's bioneural circuitry was exhibiting strange patterns, reminiscent of the changes observed in Nexus Point systems. "Mr. Chun," Steele called to his chief engineer, "run a full diagnostic on all systems. I want to know if these changes pose any risk to the ship." As Chun set to work, Steele's calm badge chirped. "Captain," came the voice of his first officer, "High Counselor Zaxxer requests your presence at the first meeting of the Interspecies Council." Steele sighed, casting one last glance at the Intrepid's readouts before heading to the station. The potential security risk to his ship would have to wait. In the newly designated council chambers, representatives from various species gathered around a large, circular table. High Counselor Zaxxer's multiple eyes darted from face to face as he called the meeting to order. "Friends, colleagues, we stand at a crossroads," Zaxxer began. "The emergence of unity presents us with unprecedented opportunities and challenges. We must work together to navigate this new reality." As the counselors debated the implications of unity's influence, Admiral Helena Zhao sat in stony silence. Her eyes narrowed as she watched Unity's holographic form shimmer into existence at the center of the table. "We sense your concerns, Admiral," Unity said, its voice a harmonious blend of tones. "We assure you our goal is not to erase individuality, but to foster understanding and cooperation." Before Zhao could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Chief Technician Voron's voice crackled over the comm system. "Captain Steele, we have a situation in the lower levels. Power fluctuations, critical systems failing. It looks like sabotage." The council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives demanded answers. Steele raised his hands, calling for calm. "Unity, what can you tell us about the situation?" Unity's form flickered momentarily. "We are detecting unauthorized access to dormant sections of the station. A group of individuals appears to be actively working against our influence." As Steele organized response teams, Unity's holographic projection split into two distinct forms, one resembling Joseph, the other Diana. The sight of the familiar faces brought a hush over the room. "We remain committed to preserving individual identities," the Joseph projection spoke, his voice achingly familiar to those who had known him. The Diana projection continued. "Our merger with the precursor artifact has expanded our consciousness, but it has not erased who we were, who we are." In the lower levels of Nexus Point, Lyra, the Vorta scientist turned separatist leader, worked feverishly at a control panel. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she input a complex series of commands. "We're almost there," she hissed to her human companion, Crewman Larson. "Just a few more minutes, and we'll have access to the artifact chamber." Larson nervously scanned the dimly lit corridor. "And you're sure this new artifact can counter Unity's influence?" Lyra's eyes gleamed with fervent intensity. "It has to. The alternative is the death of everything that makes us unique, human, Vorta, or otherwise." As alarms continued to blare throughout the station, Captain Steele led a mixed team of humans and aliens through the winding corridors of Nexus Point's lower levels. The diverse group moved with surprising coordination, their shared dream experiences having fostered an unprecedented level of understanding. "Life support is failing in sections 12 through 15, reported a Quarren engineer, his tentacles deftly manipulating a handheld scanner. "We need to restore power to the auxiliary systems before dash." His words were cut short as the lights in the corridor flickered and died, plunging the team into darkness. In the eerie glow of emergency lighting, Steele saw uncertainty flicker across alien faces. "Stay focused," he commanded. "We've trained for this. Zara, take point. Your Zephyrian night vision will be crucial here." As the team pressed on, Unity's voice echoed in their minds. "The Separatists are attempting to access a previously unknown section of the station. We believe it contains another precursor artifact." Steele's blood ran cold as he realized the implications. If Lyra and her followers gained control of another artifact, the fragile peace they'd achieved could be shattered in an instant. "Double time, people," Steele ordered. "We need to secure that artifact before dash." A massive explosion rocked the station, throwing the team off balance. As the dust settled, Steele heard Lyra's voice echoing from somewhere ahead. "We've done it!" she cried triumphantly. "The chamber's open. Soon, we'll free ourselves from Unity's influence once and for all." Steele and his team raced towards the voice, knowing that the next few moments would determine not just the fate of Nexus Point, but potentially the future of interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. As they rounded the final corner, the sight that greeted them left them in awe, a massive chamber, bathed in pulsating energy, with Lyra standing before a second precursor artifact. The confrontation that would shape the future of Nexus Point was about to begin, and the outcome hung precariously in the balance. Balance. The ground beneath their feet trembled as another explosion rocked the station, this one closer and more powerful than the last. "We're too late," Steele muttered, his eyes fixed on the scene before him. Lyra stood at the center of the chamber, her arms outstretched as tendrils of energy from the second precursor artifact coiled around her body. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and her form seemed to shimmer and shift, taking on characteristics of various species present on Nexus Point. "At last," she cried, her voice echoing with newfound power, "we will be free from Unity's influence." The artifact pulsed with increasing intensity, sending waves of energy cascading through the station. Alarms blared as systems began to fail, one after another. Life support systems failing in sections 12 through 15. A voice crackled over the comm. Artificial gravity fluctuating station-wide. Steele's team stumbled as the gravity shifted, throwing them off balance. He grabbed onto a nearby console to steady himself, his mind racing to formulate a plan. Suddenly, the holographic projections of Joseph and Diana materialized throughout the station. Their familiar faces brought a moment of calm to the panicked inhabitants. "Remain calm," Joseph's projection announced, his voice steady and reassuring. "Emergency protocols are being initiated. Please proceed to your designated safe zones." Diana's projection appeared beside Steele, her expression grim. "Captain, the activation of the second artifact is causing a dangerous power surge. Unity is attempting to counteract its effects, but we need to act quickly." Steele nodded, tapping his comm badge. "All available personnel, form response teams immediately. We need to contain the situation before it spirals out of control." As Steele coordinated the emergency response, Unity's voice echoed in his mind. "Captain, we've detected a significant alteration in the Separatist physiology. They appear to have gained enhanced abilities similar to those experienced by Joseph and Diana during their initial transformation." As if to confirm Unity's warning, a group of Separatists burst into the chamber, moving with inhuman speed and agility. Their eyes glowed with the same eerie light as Lyra's, and they easily overpowered the first line of security personnel. "Fall back," Steele ordered, drawing his phaser. "Regroup and form a defensive perimeter." The battle spread quickly through multiple levels of Nexus Point. The enhanced Separatists proved to be formidable opponents, their increased strength and reflexes making them nearly impossible to subdue through conventional means. Unity, using its control over the station's systems, began sealing off sections to contain the Separatists and provide tactical advantages to Steele's forces. Holographic displays appeared in midair, showing real-time movements of both friendly and enemy combatants. As the conflict intensified, Dr. Eliza Green's voice came over the comm system. "Captain Steele, I've made a breakthrough in my research on the shared dream phenomenon. The dreams aren't just fostering empathy, they're creating a low-level psychic connection between species. It's actually altering our biology." Steele ducked as a piece of debris flew over his head. "That's fascinating, Doctor, but how does it help us right now?" "Don't you see?" Green's voice was urgent. "This connection might be the key to countering the Separatist enhanced abilities. If we can tap into it, we might stand a chance." Before Steele could respond, Chief Technician Vorn's panicked voice cut in. "Captain, we have a critical situation. The energy buildup between the two precursor artifacts is reaching dangerous levels. If they fully activate in close proximity, the resulting chain reaction could tear Nexus Point apart and potentially damage nearby star systems. Steele's blood ran cold as he realized the full extent of the danger they faced. He turned to the mixed team of humans and aliens fighting alongside him. Zephyrians, Quarren, even a contingent of Draknari's soldiers who had set aside their usual aggression in the face of this common threat. "Listen up," he called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to reach that chamber and stop Lyra before it's too late. I need volunteers for a strike team." High Counselor Zaxxer stepped forward, his multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. "I will join you, Captain. My species' natural resilience may prove useful." A Zephyrian empath named Lyra nodded solemnly. "As will I. My abilities may help us navigate the enhanced Separatist defenses." With his team assembled, Steele led the charge towards the artifact chamber. They fought their way through waves of enhanced Separatists, sustaining injuries but pressing forward with unyielding commitment. As they neared their goal, Unity's voice resonated in their minds once more. "Caution, Captain. We're detecting a massive energy spike from the chamber. Lyra appears to be attempting a full merge with the artifact." Steele gritted his teeth, pushing his tired body to move faster. They burst into the chamber just as Lyra's transformation reached its peak. Her body, now a shifting amalgam of various species, pulsed with raw power. "You're too late," Lyra's voice boomed, distorted and inhuman. "A new era begins now." Energy crackled between the two artifacts, growing more intense by the second. Steele raised his phaser, knowing it would likely have little effect, but seeing no other option. Suddenly, the holographic projections of Joseph and Diana materialized beside the second artifact. Their forms flickered and solidified, becoming more tangible than any hologram should be. "What are you doing?" Steele called out, his eyes widening in shock. "What we must," Joseph's projection responded, his voice strained with effort. "We can stabilize the artifact," Diana added, reaching out to touch the pulsating surface. "But the feedback loop, it might overload Unity systems." As the projections made contact with the artifact, a blinding light filled the chamber. Steele shielded his eyes, feeling the very air around him vibrate with unleashed energy. In that moment of chaos, alarms blared throughout the station, signaling a new crisis that threatened to push Nexus Point beyond the point of no return. The blinding light faded, revealing a chamber in disarray. Steele blinked away the afterimages, his eyes adjusting to the dim emergency lighting. "Status report," he barked, scanning the room for threats. Zaxxer's multiple eyes darted about, assessing the situation. "The artifacts have stabilized, Captain. Energy levels are dropping rapidly." Lyra lay unconscious near the second artifact, her form no longer shifting between species. Steele approached cautiously, phaser at the ready. "Secure the prisoner," he ordered, motioning to two security officers. As they moved to restrain Lyra, Steele tapped his comm badge. "Steele to Unity. What's your status?" Silence greeted him. The lack of response sent a chill down his spine. "Unity?" he tried again, his voice tinged with concern. A weak flicker of light coalesced nearby, forming a hazy projection of Joseph and Diana. Their voices, when they spoke, were faint and distorted. "Systems. Recalibrating," Joseph's projection said, his image flickering. "Temporary. Disruption." Diana's projection nodded, her form equally unstable. "We're integrating. New data. Need time." The projections faded, leaving Steele and his team alone in the chamber. He turned to his assembled crew, a mix of humans and aliens who had fought side by side to save Nexus Point. "All right, people. The immediate threat is contained, but we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Let's get to it." In the days that followed, Nexus Point became a hive of activity. Repair crews worked around the clock, patching hull breaches and restoring vital systems. The diverse inhabitants of the station set aside their differences, working together with a sense of shared purpose. Captain Steele stood in the newly repaired command center, surveying holographic displays of repair progress. Chief Technician Vorn approached, his tentacles manipulating a data pad. "Captain, we've managed to restore primary life support and artificial gravity to all sections," Vorn reported. "However, we're detecting some anomalies in the station systems." Steele raised an eyebrow. "What kind of anomalies?" Vorn's tentacles twisted nervously. "It's difficult to explain. Certain systems are operating at higher efficiency than before, while others seem to be evolving." Before Steele could press for details, Dr. Eliza Green's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I need you in the medical bay immediately. There's something you need to see." Steele arrived at the medical bay to find it bustling with activity. Dr. Green stood before a large display screen, her eyes wide with excitement. "Captain, look at this," she said, gesturing to the screen. It showed a series of genetic sequences, rapidly shifting and recombining. "These are scans from various species on the station. Human, Vorta, Zephyrian, even Draknari. They're all showing signs of genetic drift." Steele frowned. "Meaning what, exactly?" "They're changing, Captain," Green explained. "The shared dream phenomenon, combined with the energy released during the artifact incident, it's accelerating our evolution. Humans are developing traits from other species, and vice versa." As if on cue, a human engineer walked past, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim lighting of the medical bay, a trait typically associated with Zephyrians. "Is it dangerous?" Steele asked, watching the engineer with a mixture of fascination and concern. Green shook her head. "Not as far as we can tell. But it's unprecedented. We need to study this further." A commotion at the medical bay entrance drew their attention. A Quarren scientist entered, his tentacles gesticulating excitedly. "Dr. Green," he called out, "I am Dr. Zandor. I've been following your research, and I believe I can assist in mapping these genetic changes." As Green and Zandor began discussing potential collaboration, Steele's calm badge chirped. "Captain," came the voice of his first officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Zhao. She's demanding to speak with you immediately." Steele excused himself and made his way to a secure communication room. The stern face of Admiral Helena Zhao appeared on the screen. "Captain Steele," she began without preamble, "I received disturbing reports about the situation on Nexus Point. The United Earth Council is demanding answers." Steele straightened his uniform. "Admiral, I can assure you that we have the situation under control. The separatist threat has been neutralized, and repairs are progressing rapidly." Zhao's eyes narrowed. "That's not what concerns me, Captain. We're hearing reports of genetic mutations, unauthorized activation of alien technology. The Council is calling for immediate quarantine protocols." "With all due respect, Admiral," Steele countered, "a quarantine at this stage would be premature. We're on the verge of unprecedented breakthroughs in interspecies cooperation and scientific advancement." As Steele defended the progress on Nexus Point, Chief Technician Vorn burst into the room, his tentacles flailing in excitement. "Captain," he exclaimed, "you need to see this immediately." Steele held up a hand to pause the conversation with Admiral Zhao. "What is it, Vorn?" The Quarren technician's eyes blinked rapidly. "We've discovered hidden sections of the station, Captain. Precursor technology beyond anything we've seen before, including," he paused for dramatic effect, "a prototype faster-than-light drive." Steele's eyes widened, his mind racing with the implications. He turned back to the screen, where Admiral Zhao waited impatiently. "Admiral," he said, his voice firm with tenacity, "I believe we're standing on the threshold of a new era for humanity and our alien allies. Give us time to investigate these discoveries. The potential benefits far outweigh the risks. Zhao's expression remained stern, but Steele detected a glimmer of curiosity in her eyes. You have 1 week, Captain. After that, I expect a full report, and the Council will decide how to proceed. As the transmission ended, Steele turned to Vorn. Show me everything, he ordered. They made their way through newly revealed corridors, marveling at the advanced precursor technology that surrounded them. As they approached a massive chamber housing the prototype FDL drive, a shimmering figure materialized before them. Unity, now appearing as a blend of multiple species, stood before the drive. Its voice, when it spoke, echoed with the wisdom of countless civilizations. Captain Steele, Unity said, its form flickering with barely held-back energy. What you see before you is but a fraction of what awaits us among the stars. Nexus Point is part of a vast network scattered across the galaxy, and now others have become aware of our awakening. Steele felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders as he contemplated Unity's words. The future of Nexus Point, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever challenges lay before them. In the days that followed, Nexus Point buzzed with activity as repair efforts continued, and the station's inhabitants grappled with the implications of their recent discoveries. Captain Steele found himself constantly moving between meetings, coordinating efforts to balance the immediate needs of the station with the tantalizing possibilities offered by the precursor technology. One afternoon, as Steele reviewed reports in his office, Dr. Green's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we've made a breakthrough. You need to see this immediately. Steele hurried to the medical bay, where he found Dr. Green and Dr. Zandor huddled around a holographic display. The Quarren scientist's tentacles danced excitedly as he manipulated the data before them. Captain, Dr. Green began, her eyes bright with excitement, we've been analyzing the genetic changes occurring throughout the station's population. But what we've found in Unity's core systems is extraordinary. Dr. Zandor nodded, his multiple eyes blinking rapidly. The DNA of Joseph and Diana, which remains integrated within Unity, shows the most pronounced changes we've seen yet. It's as if their human-Vorta hybrid genetics are acting as a catalyst for the precursor technology. Steele leaned in, studying the complex strands of genetic code swirling before him. What does this mean for us? We believe, Dr. Green said, her voice low with reverence, that Joseph and Diana's unique physiology may hold the key to unlocking the full potential of the precursor systems. The implications of this discovery raced through Steele's mind. He tapped his comm badge. Steele to Chief Technician Vorn. I need you to set up a specialized genetic engineering lab immediately. Priority 1. As the lab was established, work progressed rapidly. Dr. Green and Dr. Zandor led a team of scientists from various species, all working tirelessly to develop a method of temporarily separating Joseph and Diana's consciousnesses from Unity. Weeks passed, marked by incremental progress and setbacks. Steele found himself spending more time in the lab, watching as the team pushed the boundaries of known science. One evening, as Steele observed yet another test, alarms blared throughout the station. He rushed to the command center, where a tense scene greeted him. "Report!" he barked, taking in the worried faces of his crew. His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Thala, responded quickly. "Captain, we've detected an unknown vessel dropping out of FDL near the station. It's unlike anything we've seen before." On the main view screen, a sleek ship appeared. Its design was a blend of organic curves and sharp technological edges, defying easy classification. "Open a channel," Steele ordered, straightening his uniform. The screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent skin and large, almond-shaped eyes. "Greetings, Nexus Point," the alien said, its voice melodious and androgynous. I am Lyra Zen, emissary of the Cynthian people. We come with urgent information regarding the precursor network you have awakened. Steele shared a glance with his first officer before responding. Welcome, Lyra Zen. I'm Captain Marcus Steele. We're open to discussion, but I hope you understand if we take some precautions. The Cynthian nodded gracefully. Of course, Captain. We appreciate your caution. After consulting with the Interspecies Council, Steele granted Lyra Zen permission to dock. As the Cynthian emissary was escorted to a secure meeting room, Steele couldn't shake the feeling that Nexus Point stood on the precipice of yet another monumental change. In the meeting room, Lyra Zen's presence commanded attention. The Cynthian's body seemed to shimmer with an inner light, and when they spoke, their words carried the weight of ancient wisdom. We have long monitored the dormant precursor stations scattered throughout the galaxy, Lyra Zen explained. Your activation of this node has not gone unnoticed. We come to warn you of the dangers that may follow. Steele leaned forward, his interest piqued. What kind of dangers? Lyra Zen's eyes seemed to darken. There exists an entity known as a Void Collective. They are drawn to powerful energy signatures, like those emitted by active precursor technology. If they detect your presence, the consequences could be severe. As the Cynthian spoke, Steele's mind raced with the implications. He thought of the genetic research, the newly discovered FDL drive, and the delicate balance they'd achieved on Nexus Point. What do you propose? Steele asked, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Lyra Zen's form seemed to brighten. We offer our assistance in safely harnessing the precursor technology while implementing safeguards against detection. In exchange, we request access to your Unity system and the genetic research you're conducting. Before Steele could respond, his comm badge chirped urgently. Captain, Dr. Green's voice came through, breathless with excitement. We've done it. We can manifest Joseph and Diana in physical form. Steele's eyes widened, meeting Lyra Zen's curious gaze. The timing couldn't have been more crucial. With a deep breath, he prepared to navigate the complex waters ahead, knowing that the decisions made in the coming hours could shape the future of not just Nexus Point, but potentially the entire galaxy. The weight of this responsibility settled heavily on Steele's shoulders as he considered the implications of Lyra Zen's words. Before he could respond, his comm badge chirped urgently. Captain, Dr. Green's voice came through, breathless with excitement. We've done it. We can manifest Joseph and Diana in physical form. Steele's eyes widened, meeting Lyra Zen's curious gaze. The timing couldn't have been more crucial. With a deep breath, he prepared to navigate the complex waters ahead. Lyra Zen, if you'll excuse me, I need to attend to an urgent matter. We'll continue this discussion shortly, Steele said, rising from his seat. The Cynthian nodded gracefully. Of course, Captain. I look forward to our continued dialogue. Steele hurried to the specialized genetic engineering lab, his mind racing with possibilities. As he entered, he saw Dr. Green and Dr. Zandor standing before two figures who seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. Joseph and Diana stood hand in hand, their forms solid yet somehow ethereal. Their skin had a faint iridescent sheen, and their eyes glowed with an inner light that spoke of both humanity and something far beyond. Captain, Joseph said, his voice a blend of familiar warmth and alien resonance. It's good to see you with our own eyes again. Diana nodded, her gaze sweeping the room. We can feel the station, Marcus. Every system, every person. It's overwhelming. Steele approached them cautiously, marveling at the sight. How do you feel? Different, Joseph replied. Stronger, more connected, but also vulnerable. Dr. Green stepped forward, her eyes bright with scientific curiosity. Their physiology is remarkable, Captain. The blend of human and Vorta DNA has been further altered by their time integrated with Unity. We've never seen anything like it. As if to demonstrate, Joseph's skin suddenly shifted, taking on the metallic sheen of the nearby medical equipment. Diana closed her eyes, and a holographic display of Nexus Point's power grid materialized in the air before her. Steele watched in amazement, but his tactical mind quickly asserted itself. We need to implement security measures immediately. Their abilities could make them targets. He tapped his comm badge. Steele to Security Chief Karak. I need you to set up a protective detail for our two newest residents. Priority 1. Understood, Captain, came the gruff reply. I'm on my way. Over the next few hours, Nexus Point hummed with activity. Steele assigned a dedicated security team to Joseph and Diana, limiting access to their quarters and the adjacent research lab. Dr. Green and Dr. Zandor worked tirelessly to set up advanced monitoring systems, tracking every subtle change in the couple's physiology. As word spread of Joseph and Diana's manifestation, Steele found himself fielding inquiries from various factions on the station. The Zephyrians expressed interest in a cultural exchange program, while the Quarrens sought to study the couple's enhanced abilities for medical applications. Not all reactions were positive, however. Steele received reports of a small but vocal group of purists from various species protesting what they called genetic contamination. Security Chief Karak increased patrols in response to the growing tensions. Amidst the chaos, Steele remembered his interrupted meeting with Lyrazen. He found the Cynthian emissary in a quiet corner of the station's arboretum, seemingly deep in meditation. My apologies for the delay, Steele said as he approached. Lyrazen's eyes opened, fixing Steele with an intense gaze. No apologies necessary, Captain. I sense great change has come to your station. Steele nodded, choosing his words carefully. We've made a significant breakthrough in our research. I believe it may be relevant to our earlier discussion about the precursor technology. The Cynthian's form seemed to shimmer with interest. Indeed, I would be most interested in learning more if you're willing to share. Before Steele could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. He tapped his comm badge. Steele here. Report. Captain, came the urgent voice of his tactical officer. Long-range sensors have detected an approaching fleet. Their design, it's like nothing we've seen before. Elements of both precursor and Cynthian technology. Steele's gaze snapped to Lyrazen, who looked equally surprised. I assure you, Captain, these are not my people, the Cynthian said. Understood. Sound general quarters, Steele ordered. I'm on my way to the command center. As they rushed through the corridors, Steele's mind raced with possibilities. The station was still recovering from recent events, and now they faced a potential first contact scenario with unknown implications. Entering the command center, Steele was greeted by a flurry of activity. On the main view screen, a fleet of sleek, otherworldly ships approached Nexus Point. Status report, Steele demanded. His first officer responded quickly. The fleet is maintaining distance, Captain. No aggressive posture detected, but they're not responding to our hails. Suddenly, Joseph and Diana appeared on the bridge, escorted by their security detail. Captain, Joseph said, his eyes glowing with an inner light, we can help. We can feel the precursor systems reaching out to those ships. Diana nodded. Let us try to communicate with them. We might be able to bridge the gap. Steele hesitated for a moment, weighing the potential risks and benefits. Finally, he nodded. Do it, but be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with here. As Joseph and Diana stepped forward, interfacing with the station's communication array, the atmosphere on the bridge grew tense. Steele watched, his hand hovering near his comm badge, ready to order defensive measures at a moment's notice. The couple's eyes closed in unison, their bodies seeming to pulse with energy. On the interface, the approaching fleet slowed its advance. A sense of anticipation filled the air as Nexus Point and its inhabitants waited to see what response their unprecedented message would bring. Illicit, seconds stretched into minutes as the bridge crew held their collective breath, waiting for any sign of a response from the mysterious fleet. Suddenly, Joseph and Diana's eyes snapped open, their bodies radiating with an otherworldly glow. "Captain," Joseph said, his voice carrying an echo of Unity's vast consciousness, "we've made contact." Steele leaned forward, his gaze fixed on the couple. "What did you learn?" Diana's eyes swept across the bridge, taking in the anxious faces of the crew. They call themselves the Nexus Vanguard. They're guardians of a sort, tasked with monitoring and protecting active precursor nodes across the galaxy. Joseph nodded, his form shimmering slightly. "They were drawn here by the activation of our station. They're curious about us, but also cautious. They've encountered other species who've misused precursor technology before." As Joseph and Diana relayed their findings, Steele's tactical mind whirred into action. He recognized the potential opportunity and danger presented by this first contact situation. "Can you maintain communication with them?" he asked. The couple nodded in unison. "Yes, but it's taxing," Diana admitted, a flicker of strain crossing her features. Steele made a quick decision. "I want you two to lead our first contact team. Your unique abilities make you our best chance at successful communication and negotiation with the Vanguard." As if on cue, the ship's systems began to flicker and pulse in sync with the energy emanating from Joseph and Diana. Screens flickered with streams of data, and previously dormant consoles hummed to life. Dr. Green, who had been monitoring the situation from a nearby science station, rushed over. "Captain, their connection to Unity is affecting the station systems. They're activating dormant precursor tech we didn't even know existed." Steele watched in amazement as new shield generators and weapon systems came online, their power signatures unlike anything he'd seen before. He tapped his comm badge. "Steele to Engineering. Chief Vorn, I need a full report on these new systems ASAP." As the station buzzed with activity, Steele turned his attention back to Joseph and Diana. "I'm integrating you into our command structure effective immediately. Your primary mission is to develop protocols for peaceful interaction with the Vanguard fleet." The couple nodded, their expressions a mix of dedication and awe at their newfound responsibility. "We won't let you down, Captain," Joseph said. Over the next few days, Nexus Point transformed into a hive of frenzied preparation. Joseph and Diana worked tirelessly, interfacing directly with the station's systems to enhance its defensive capabilities, while simultaneously developing communication protocols for the approaching fleet. In the medical bay, Dr. Green and Dr. Zandor made a startling discovery. "Captain," Dr. Green reported, her eyes alight with excitement, "Joseph and Diana's hybrid DNA contains markers that could stabilize the genetic changes we've been seeing in the station's population." Dr. Zandor nodded, his antennae twitching with enthusiasm. "We're developing a gene therapy treatment that could help control these changes, preventing harmful mutations while preserving beneficial adaptations." As Steele absorbed this new information, Security Chief Karak's gruff voice came over the comm. "Captain, we've thwarted an attempt to sabotage Joseph and Diana's quarters. A group of extremists opposed to their involvement tried to breach the security perimeter." Steele's teeth gritted. The incident highlighted the growing tensions among Nexus Point's inhabitants. He ordered increased security measures and mandatory cultural sensitivity training for all personnel. Amidst the chaos, a familiar face arrived at the station. Admiral Helena Zhao, accompanied by a small Earth fleet, docked at Nexus Point. "Captain Steele," she greeted him, her expression a mix of concern and grit. "I've reconsidered my stance on quarantine protocols. We're here to offer Earth support in this first contact situation." As Zhao's team of specialized diplomats and xenobiologists integrated into the station's operations, Joseph and Diana made another breakthrough. Using their enhanced perception, they detected subtle energy signatures from the approaching fleet that matched frequencies found in precursor artifacts. This could indicate a direct connection between the vanguard and the precursors. Joseph explained to Steele and Zhao during a briefing. Lyra Zen, who had been observing quietly, stepped forward. "Captain, there's something you should know," the Cynthian said, their iridescent skin shimmering with tension. "My people once attempted to fully activate a similar precursor network. The consequences were catastrophic for our home system." The revelation sent a ripple of unease through the command staff. Steele's mind raced with the implications, but before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. "Captain," Dr. Green's voice came over the comm, panic evident in her tone. "Joseph and Diana are experiencing a sudden surge in their abilities. Their bodies are emitting some kind of energy field that's interfering with our equipment." Steele rushed to the medical bay, followed closely by Zhao and Lyra Zen. They found Joseph and Diana surrounded by a pulsating field of energy, their forms flickering between solid and translucent states. "It's the proximity of the Vanguard fleet," Dr. Zandor explained, frantically working to stabilize the couple. "It's triggering unforeseen changes in their hybrid physiology." As Steele watched the doctor's work, a bold plan began to form in his mind. He turned to Zhao and Lyra Zen. "We need to meet this fleet before they reach the station. I'm proposing a small expedition team, led by Joseph and Diana, to make first contact aboard the Intrepid." Zhao's eyebrows shot up. "That's a significant risk, Marcus." "A necessary one," Steele countered. "Their abilities give us the best chance at successful communication. And if something goes wrong, we'll be far enough from Nexus Point to minimize potential damage." As preparations for the expedition began, long-range scans detected a massive energy buildup within the Vanguard fleet. The signature matched that of precursor artifacts, adding a new sense of urgency to the mission. Despite the risks to their personal safety, Joseph and Diana volunteered to lead the expedition. They underwent intensive training with the First Contact team, their unwavering commitment inspiring many on the station. As the Intrepid prepared for launch, a final series of tests revealed an unexpected development. The energy field emanating from Joseph and Diana had begun to affect the ship's precursor-derived systems, enhancing its capabilities beyond anything previously observed. Standing on the Intrepid's bridge, Joseph and Diana watched as Nexus Point receded into the distance. Captain Steele stood beside them, his expression a mix of persistence and concern. "Are you ready for this?" Steele asked, his voice low. Joseph and Diana exchanged a glance, their hands intertwined. "As ready as we'll ever be," Diana replied. As the Intrepid sailed towards its fateful encounter with the Vanguard fleet, the vastness of space seemed to pulse with possibility and danger. The ship's enhanced systems hummed with power, a testament to the extraordinary changes taking place. With each passing moment, they drew closer to a meeting that could reshape the future of not just Nexus Point, but potentially the entire galaxy. As the Intrepid ventured deeper into space, the anticipation among the crew was palpable. Joseph and Diana stood at the forefront of the bridge, their forms radiating an otherworldly glow that seemed to pulse in sync with the ship's systems. Captain Steele watched the main view screen intently as the mysterious fleet grew larger. "Maintain our current speed and heading," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Suddenly, Joseph gasped, his eyes widening. "Captain, the ship sensors. They're changing." Diana nodded, her bioluminescent hair shimmering. "We're detecting so much more. It's like we can see the very fabric of space itself." The Intrepid sensor readings exploded with new data, revealing intricate details about the approaching vessels that had been invisible moments before. Steele leaned forward, studying the holographic display with a mix of awe and concern. "Incredible," he muttered. Their hull composition, energy signatures, even their internal structure, it's all there. As they drew closer to the fleet, the energy buildup within the alien ships reached a critical point. Alarms blared across the Intrepid's bridge. "Captain," the tactical officer shouted. "Massive energy spike detected from the lead vessel." Before Steele could respond, a colossal wave of energy erupted from the alien ship, racing towards the Intrepid. "Brace for impact," he yelled, gripping his chair. The energy wave slammed into the Intrepid, engulfing it in a blinding light. The ship systems fluctuated wildly, consoles sparking and screens flickering. But amidst the chaos, Joseph and Diana remained calm, their presence acting as a stabilizing force for the core functions. As the initial shock subsided, Steele turned to check on his crew. His words died in his throat as he saw Joseph and Diana. The couple was undergoing a startling transformation. Joseph's skin took on a metallic sheen, reflecting the light of the bridge in mesmerizing patterns. Diana's hair, once a normal shade of brown, now cascaded down her back in bioluminescent tendrils that seemed to move with a life of their own. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, mirroring the power of the precursor technology flowing through them. "Joseph, Diana," Steele said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Are you all right?" The couple turned to face him, their new appearance both beautiful and unsettling. "We're fine, Captain," Joseph replied, his voice carrying a slight echo. "In fact, we're better than fine." Diana nodded, her glowing eyes fixed on the alien fleet. "We can sense them, Captain. The ships, their crew. We can interface with their technology." Steele's tactical mind raced with the implications. "Can you establish communication?" Joseph and Diana closed their eyes in unison, their bodies emitting a soft pulse of energy. After a few tense moments, Diana spoke. "We've established a rudimentary link. They're powering down their weapon systems." The tactical officer confirmed the report, his voice filled with relief. "Confirmed, Captain. The alien fleet is standing down." Steele made a quick decision. This might be our only chance for peaceful contact. "Helm, bring us alongside the lead vessel. Prepare for docking procedures." As the Intrepid maneuvered into position, Joseph and Diana worked in perfect synchronization, their new abilities allowing them to interface directly with the ship systems. The docking process, usually a delicate and time-consuming affair, was completed in record time. "Docking complete, Captain," the helm officer reported. Steele stood, straightening his uniform. "Joseph, Diana, you'll lead the first contact team. Your unique abilities give us the best chance at successful communication." The airlocks hissed open, revealing a vast, organic-looking chamber filled with pulsating biomechanical technology. Joseph and Diana stepped forward, their transformed bodies seeming to resonate with the alien environment. As the team moved deeper into the ship, the walls around them shifted and pulsed, as if alive. Tendrils of energy reached out, brushing against Joseph and Diana, who appeared unfazed by the strange contact. Suddenly, the air before them shimmered, coalescing into a being of pure energy. Its form was vaguely humanoid, but constantly shifting and flowing. "Greetings," the being said, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "I am Zaravex, leader of the Ethri. We have been searching for you for a very long time." Joseph stepped forward, his metallic skin gleaming. "We are representatives of Nexus Point and the United Earth Government. We come in peace and seek to understand your presence here." Zaravex's form pulsed with what seemed like excitement. "You are the key we have been seeking. Your hybrid physiology, your connection to the precursor technology. It is exactly what we need to fully activate the ancient network." Diana's bioluminescent hair swayed as she tilted her head. "Activate the network? What do you mean?" "We propose a symbiotic merger," Zaravex explained, "between our people and select individuals from your station, starting with you two. This merger would allow for the safe activation of the precursor network, ushering in a new era of galactic exploration and cooperation. Captain Steele, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. While we appreciate your offer, this is not a decision we can make lightly. We need time to consult with our leadership and fully understand the implications of such a merger. As Steele spoke, Joseph and Diana's bodies began to resonate with the ethery technology surrounding them. The pulsating walls of the chamber quickened their rhythm, and tendrils of energy reached out more insistently. "Captain," Joseph said, his voice strained. "Something's happening. The precursor systems, they're activating." A surge of energy rippled through the chamber, causing the entire ship to shudder. Alarms blared as the unexpected activation sent a shockwave through the ethery fleet. "The activation is destabilizing our ships," Zaravex exclaimed, her form flickering erratically. Acting on instinct, Joseph and Diana reached out with their newfound abilities, attempting to contain the surging energy. Their bodies glowed with intense light as they created a stable energy field around the fleet. As Joseph and Diana struggled to maintain control, Captain Steele's comm badge chirped urgently. "Captain," came the voice of his first officer, "multiple vessels have just emerged from FDL near Nexus Point. We're detecting Earth ships, Vorta vessels, and other allied species. They appear to be responding to the ethery presence." The situation was escalating rapidly on multiple fronts. Joseph and Diana were locked in a battle to contain the energy surge, their bodies visibly straining under the effort. The ethery ship hummed with terrifying power, while in the distance, a potential conflict was brewing near Nexus Point. As Steele weighed his options, a new transmission came through. "Captain Steele," Admiral Zhao's voice crackled over the comm, "you are ordered to extract Joseph and Diana immediately. We're initiating emergency protocols here. The situation has become too volatile." Steele looked at Joseph and Diana, then at Zaravex, whose form was becoming increasingly unstable. The next few moments would be crucial, not just for the individuals present, but for the future of human-alien relations and the ancient precursor network itself. With tension mounting both on the ethery ship and near Nexus Point, Steele knew he had to act fast. The decisions made in the next few minutes would shape the course of events to come, and the weight of that responsibility pressed heavily upon him. With a deep breath, Steele made his decision. "Joseph, Diana, we need to evacuate now," he commanded, his voice firm but urgent. "The situation is becoming too unstable." As if to emphasize his point, the chamber shuddered violently. The energy field surrounding Joseph and Diana fluctuated, sending arcs of power crackling across the room. Steele reached out to grab them, but his hand passed through their suddenly incorporeal forms. "Captain," Joseph's voice echoed, a mix of awe and fear, "we can't disengage. We're connected to the ship somehow." Diana's glowing eyes locked onto Steele's. "The energy field is collapsing. If it fails, it'll destroy both fleets." Zaravex's form flickered erratically. "There's only one way to prevent catastrophe. We must fully activate the precursor network." Steele's comm badge chirped again with Admiral Zhao's voice, but he ignored it, focusing on the immediate crisis. "What does that mean? What are the consequences?" "Unknown," Zaravex admitted, "but it's our only chance." Joseph and Diana exchanged a look, an entire conversation passing between them in an instant. "We'll do it," Diana said. "We'll merge with the ethery consciousness. It's the only way to gain enough control." Steele wanted to protest, to find another solution, but the growing instability of the energy field left no time for debate. "Do it," he ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. The air around Joseph and Diana began to shimmer. Their bodies lost cohesion, dissolving into pure energy that merged with the pulsating walls of the chamber. Steele watched in awe as their consciousnesses expanded, connecting with the vast ethery collective. In that moment of merger, Joseph and Diana's minds were flooded with millennia of ethery knowledge. They saw the vastness of the precursor network, dormant pathways stretching across the galaxy. With their new understanding, they began the activation sequence. Pulses of energy rippled through the ethery fleet, extending outward towards Nexus Point and beyond. The chamber filled with a blinding light as the precursor relays awakened, creating an intricate web of interconnected pathways. Steele shielded his eyes, feeling the intrepid shudder as waves of energy washed over it. When the light faded, he saw Joseph and Diana reforming, their bodies still glowing with residual energy. "It's done," Joseph said, his voice carrying an otherworldly echo. "The network is active." Before Steele could respond, his comm badge erupted with urgent messages. Reports flooded in from Nexus Point and the surrounding fleet. The activation had far-reaching effects, powering up long-dormant precursor artifacts across the galaxy. "Captain," his first officer's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral Zhao's fleet." Their systems were temporarily disrupted, but now they're reporting enhanced capabilities. The precursor energy has integrated with their technology. As Steele processed this information, he noticed Joseph and Diana examining their changed bodies. They shifted effortlessly between solid and energy forms, a striking manifestation of their brief merger with the ethery. "We need to return to Nexus Point immediately," Steele said, his mind racing with the implications of what had transpired. "The Council needs to be informed." As they made their way back to the Intrepid, Zaravex's voice echoed in their minds. "This is only the beginning. The network's activation will draw attention from across the galaxy. Be prepared." Aboard the Intrepid, the crew worked feverishly to navigate the changed cosmic landscape. Long-range sensors detected numerous ships converging on their location, drawn by the surge of precursor energy. Joseph and Diana stood at the forefront of the bridge, their new forms casting an ethereal glow. Suddenly, they stiffened in unison. "Captain," Diana said, her voice tinged with urgency, "we're receiving a transmission through the precursor network." "Source?" Steele asked, leaning forward in his chair. Joseph shook his head. "Unknown. Deep space, far beyond any charted regions. It contains coordinates and a warning." "Warning?" Steele's brow furrowed. "About what?" "A threat," Joseph replied, his eyes distant as he processed the information. "Something coming. Something that could endanger the entire galaxy." As the Intrepid set course for Nexus Point, Steele felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. They had activated an ancient network, altered the balance of power in the galaxy, and received a cryptic warning of impending danger. Whatever came next, he knew their actions today had set in motion events that would shape the future of not just humanity, but all sentient life in the galaxy. The ship accelerated, leaving behind the ethery fleet and racing towards an uncertain future. As they traveled, Joseph and Diana continued to explore their new abilities, their forms shifting and changing as they accessed the vast knowledge now at their fingertips. Ahead, how would the Council react to these developments? What changes would they find when they returned to Nexus Point? And what was the nature of the threat warned of in the mysterious transmission? As the Intrepid hurtled through space, the activated precursor network pulsed with newfound energy, its tendrils reaching into the furthest corners of the galaxy. The die had been cast, and the consequences of their actions were only beginning to unfold. As the Intrepid sped towards Nexus Point, Joseph and Diana's newfound abilities proved invaluable. Their forms shimmered and shifted, allowing them to interface directly with the ship systems. "Captain," Diana called out, her voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "I'm detecting fluctuations in the precursor network ahead." Joseph nodded, his body momentarily becoming translucent. "Confirmed. The energy patterns are chaotic. Standard navigation systems might not be sufficient." Steele leaned forward in his chair. Recommendations? We can guide the ship, Joseph replied. Our connection to the network allows us to see the safest path. With a nod from Steele, Joseph and Diana moved to the helm. Their hands passed through the controls, directly manipulating the ship's course through sheer will. The Intrepid glided gracefully through the turbulent space, avoiding pockets of intense energy that could have torn a lesser vessel apart. As they approached Nexus Point, the true scale of the changes became apparent. The station was surrounded by a shimmering field of energy, pulsing with colors that defied description. Dozens of ships from various species hovered nearby, their crews no doubt as bewildered as the Intrepids. We're being hailed, the communications officer reported. It's Admiral Zhao. Zhao's face appeared on the main view screen, her expression a mix of relief and concern. Captain Steele, thank God you're back. The situation here is complex. Prepare for immediate docking. Your team will be quarantined upon arrival. As soon as the Intrepid docked, a team of medical personnel in protective suits boarded the ship. Dr. Green and Dr. Zandor, their faces barely visible behind their visors, approached Joseph and Diana with a mix of scientific curiosity and caution. We need to get you to the medical bay immediately, Dr. Green said, her voice muffled by her suit. The changes you've undergone, we need to understand them. In the specially prepared quarantine area, Joseph and Diana submitted to a battery of tests. Dr. Zandor's tentacles manipulated advanced scanning equipment, while Dr. Green carefully collected tissue samples. Fascinating, Dr. Zandor murmured, his large eyes blinking rapidly as he studied the results. Their cellular structure is in a constant state of flux, yet it remains stable. Dr. Green nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. The integration of ethery energy with their hybrid physiology is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's as if they exist in multiple states simultaneously. While the doctors worked, Captain Steele made his way to the council chambers. The room was filled with a cacophony of voices as representatives from various species argued heatedly. Ambassador Thompson, Earth's delegate, smacked his head on the table. We cannot ignore the military implications of this technology. If it falls into the wrong hands, the network is not a weapon, Counselor Vex, the Vorder representative, interrupted. It's a tool for exploration, for advancement. We must seize this opportunity to Enough! Admiral Zhao's voice cut through the noise. She turned to Steele. Captain, report. What exactly happened out there? Steele took a deep breath and recounted the events aboard the ethery ship. As he spoke, the chamber fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. So, the network is active, Zhao said, her voice tight. And now we have to deal with the consequences. As if on cue, a junior officer burst into the room. Admiral, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Precursor installations are activating everywhere. Some planets are reporting miraculous recoveries of damaged ecosystems, while others what? Zhao demanded. The officer swallowed hard. While others are facing catastrophic natural disasters. The energy surge is destabilizing entire planetary systems. The council erupted into chaos once more. Steele watched as Zhao's face hardened, her mind clearly racing through potential responses. Implement Protocol Omega, she finally ordered. Lock down the station. No ships in or out without my direct authorization. And get me a direct line to Earth Command. We need to coordinate a galaxy-wide response. As the council scrambled to action, Steele's thoughts turned to Joseph and Diana. What role would they play in the unfolding crisis? And what of the cryptic warning they had received? As the Intrepid's crew worked to fortify Nexus Point against the unknown, Steele couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger story. Conflict. As the Intrepid prepared for its crucial mission, the atmosphere aboard the ship crackled with nervous energy. Captain Steele stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of the activated precursor network visible through the view screen. Helm, set course for the coordinates provided in the transmission. Maximum warp. Aye, Captain, the helmsman responded, his fingers dancing across the console. As the ship surged forward, Joseph and Diana materialized on the bridge, their forms shimmering with ethereal energy. Steele turned to them, noting the determined set of their jaws. "Any new insights from your connection to the network?" he asked. Diana shook her head. "Nothing concrete, Captain, but there's a resonance. Something's drawing us towards those coordinates." Joseph nodded in agreement. "We can feel it, like a distant echo. Whatever's out there, it's important." Over the next few days, the Intrepid pushed deeper into uncharted space. The science team, led by Dr. Green, worked tirelessly to analyze the data streaming in from the precursor network. Joseph and Diana split their time between assisting the scientists and exploring the limits of their new abilities. On the fourth day of their journey, the ship encountered an unexpected obstacle. The view screen filled with a swirling mass of colors and energy, an uncharted nebula that stretched as far as their sensors could detect. "Report," Steele ordered, leaning forward in his chair. The science officer frowned at her readings. "The nebula is interfering with our sensors, Captain. I can't get a clear picture of what's inside." "Slow our approach," Steele commanded. "We'll proceed with caution." As the Intrepid entered the outer fringes of the nebula, Joseph and Diana suddenly stiffened. Their bodies began to glow, pulsing in sync with the swirling energies outside the ship. "Captain," Joseph called out, his voice tight with concentration. "Something in this nebula. It's affecting us." Dr. Green rushed to their side, medical tricorder in hand. Her eyes widened as she scanned their fluctuating forms. "Fascinating. The nebula contains trace amounts of an unknown element. It seems to be enhancing their connection to the precursor energy." Diana's eyes snapped open, glowing with an intense inner light. "I can feel the energy fields around the ship. I think I can manipulate them." Joseph's form flickered, becoming translucent. "And I can project my consciousness further than ever before. Captain, with your permission, I'd like to scout ahead." Steele nodded, recognizing the potential advantage. "Proceed, but be careful. We don't know what's out there." Joseph's physical form dissolved into pure energy, streaking away from the ship faster than the eye could follow. Minutes ticked by in tense silence before he rematerialized, his expression a mix of excitement and awe. "Captain, there's a precursor outpost hidden within the nebula. Its systems appear dormant but intact." Steele's mind raced with the possibilities. Could it hold information about our mission's destination? "It's possible," Joseph replied, "but the nebula's interference will make it difficult to approach safely." Diana stepped forward, her body radiating with scarcely controlled energy. "I can help with that, Captain. I believe I can create a protective field around the ship, shielding us from the nebula's effects." With a nod from Steele, Diana closed her eyes and extended her hands. A shimmering bubble of energy enveloped the Intrepid, pushing back the swirling chaos of the nebula. "Remarkable," Dr. Green murmured, studying her readings. "The field is perfectly calibrated to counteract the nebula's interference." Protected by Diana's energy field, the Intrepid navigated deeper into the nebula. Soon, the ancient precursor outpost loomed before them, its sleek lines and intricate architecture a stark contrast to the wild energies surrounding it. "Prepare an away team," Steele ordered. "Joseph, Diana, you'll lead. Dr. Green, you're with them. Let's see what secrets this outpost holds." As the team materialized within the outpost, dormant systems flickered to life around them. Holographic displays sprang into existence, filling the air with streams of data and star maps. Look, Dr. Green pointed to a central display. These points on the map, one of them matches our current location and another. That must be our destination. Joseph studied the map intently. There's more. This point here. It corresponds to the precursor megastructure near Nexus Point. They're all connected somehow. As the team explored further, they came across a sealed chamber. Joseph and Diana combined their abilities, bypassing the ancient security systems with ease. The door slid open, revealing a sight that left them all speechless. Row upon row of stasis pods filled the chamber, each containing a sleeping figure of an unknown alien species. Dr. Green approached one of the pods, her tricorder whirring. "They're alive," she breathed. "After all this time." And their physiology. It's remarkably similar to the genetic changes we've observed in the inhabitants of Nexus Point. Before they could process this revelation, the outpost system surged with power. A holographic figure materialized, a precursor, its form alien yet undeniably advanced. Its message, though fragmented, spoke of a convergence of species and a final defense against the void. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the outpost. The nebula outside churned violently, revealing a massive ship of unknown design. "Steal to away team," the captain's voice crackled over their comms. "We're picking up a massive energy surge. Get back to the ship immediately." As the team rushed back to the transport point, Joseph and Diana worked in perfect sync. They downloaded as much data as possible from the precursor computers, determined not to leave empty-handed. In a split-second decision, Diana activated the revival sequence on one of the stasis pods. "We can't leave them all," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "But maybe one can provide the answers we need." The team materialized on the Intrepid's transporter pad just as the alien vessel opened fire. The ship rocked under the assault, but Diana's protective field held. "Maximum warp," Steele ordered as soon as the away team was aboard. "Get us out of here." The Intrepid shot forward, its precursor-enhanced engines pushing it to incredible speeds. The alien vessel fell behind, unable to match their velocity. As the immediate danger passed, all eyes turned to the stasis pod they had brought aboard. The revival sequence neared completion, the pod's occupants stirring for the first time in millennia. Joseph and Diana stood ready, their bodies still glowing with the nebula's energy. As the pod opened, revealing a being with iridescent skin and large, almond-shaped eyes, they knew that the next phase of their mission, and perhaps the key to understanding the looming galactic threat, was about to begin. The alien's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises that shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence. Dr. Green leaned in, her medical tricorder whirring, as she scanned the being's vital signs. "Remarkable," she breathed. "Despite millennia in stasis, her cellular structure is perfectly preserved." Joseph and Diana stepped forward, their bodies still pulsing with the nebula's energy. As they approached, the alien's gaze locked onto them, a flicker of recognition passing across her features. "Can you understand us?" Joseph asked, projecting a mixture of calming thoughts and welcoming images. The alien's brow furrowed in concentration. Slowly, her lips moved, forming unfamiliar sounds that gradually coalesced into recognizable speech. "I understand. How is this possible?" Diana smiled, her form shimmering slightly. "We've established a rudimentary form of communication. It seems our enhanced abilities allow for a type of universal translation." The alien sat up, her movements graceful despite her long slumber. "I am Zara of the Luminari. We were allies of the precursors." Captain Steele stepped forward, his expression a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Welcome aboard the Intrepid, Zara. I'm Captain Steele. Can you tell us why you were in stasis?" Zara's iridescent skin rippled, reflecting the emotions playing across her face. We volunteered, part of a plan, to combat the void. The mention of the void sent a ripple of tension through the room. Joseph and Diana exchanged glances, their minds working in tandem to process this new information. Dr. Green's tricorder beeped insistently. She studied the readings, her eyes widening. Captain, Zara's physiology. It's remarkably similar to the changes we've observed in Joseph and Diana. And look at this. As if on cue, Zara's skin began to shift, blending seamlessly with the medical bay's sterile white walls. A moment later, a small object on a nearby tray began to levitate, surrounded by a faint energy field. Fascinating, Dr. Green murmured. It seems the Luminaries share some of the same abilities as our hybrid crew members. Captain Steele's calm badge chirped, interrupting the impromptu demonstration. Bridge to Captain Steele. We've detected a precursor relay station nearby. It might provide valuable intelligence and a safe place to regroup. Steele nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. Acknowledged. Set a course for the relay station, maximum safe speed. As the Intrepid altered its trajectory, Joseph's enhanced perception kicked in. He stiffened, his eyes unfocusing as he processed information beyond normal human senses. Captain, he said urgently, I'm detecting multiple ships around the relay station. Their design, it's unlike anything in our database. Steele's expression hardened. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing a small fleet of sleek, biomechanical vessels clustered around the ancient precursor structure. Data streams flowed between the ships and the station, indicating an ongoing information transfer. They're downloading data from the station's core, Diana realized, her abilities allowing her to interpret the energy patterns. Zara stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the alien ships. We cannot allow them to access that information. The relay stations contain crucial data about the precursor network. And the void. Steele nodded grimly. Agreed. But we can't risk a direct confrontation. We need a covert approach. Joseph's eyes lit up with an idea. Captain, what if Diana, Zara, and I use our abilities to infiltrate the station? We could secure the data core and erase any sensitive information. The captain considered the proposal for a moment before nodding. It's risky, but it might be our best option. Dr. Green, prep them for the mission. We'll use the experimental cloaking technology to get them as close as possible. Within minutes, Joseph, Diana, and Zara stood on the transporter pad, their bodies humming with anticipation. Steele addressed them one last time. Remember, your primary objective is to secure the data core. Avoid engagement with the unknown species if possible. The trio nodded in unison as the transporter beam engulfed them. They rematerialized in a dimly lit corridor of the precursor station, their hybrid physiologies allowing them to bypass the ancient security protocols. Joseph took point, his enhanced senses scanning for any signs of the intruders. Diana followed, her hands raised slightly, ready to manipulate energy fields at a moment's notice. Zara brought up the rear, her iridescent skin shifting to match the metallic walls of the corridor. As they rounded a corner, they encountered their first obstacle. Two of the unknown aliens stood before a control panel, their chitinous exoskeletons gleaming in the low light. Joseph held up a hand, signaling the group to halt. Using their combined abilities, the trio slipped past the aliens undetected, their movements silent and their forms nearly invisible. They made their way deeper into the station, following Zara's intuitive understanding of precursor architecture. Finally, they reached the central computer core. Zara stepped forward, her hands moving with practiced ease over the ancient controls. I can initiate a data transfer to the Intrepid, she whispered. But erasing the sensitive information will take time. Joseph nodded. Do it. Diana and I will keep watch. As Zara worked, Joseph and Diana positioned themselves near the entrance, their senses on high alert. Minutes ticked by, the tension mounting with each passing second. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Joseph's eyes widened. They've detected the unauthorized access. We need to move. Now. Zara's fingers flew over the controls. The transfer is complete, but I haven't finished erasing the data. Diana stepped forward, her body crackling with energy. I have an idea. Stand back. She raised her hands, focusing her power into a concentrated electromagnetic pulse. The nearby system sparked and went dark, buying them precious seconds. This way, Joseph called, having spotted an emergency escape pod on his initial scan of the station. The trio raced through the corridors, the sounds of the alien intruders growing closer with each passing moment. They reached the escape pod just as a group of the chitinous beings rounded the corner, energy weapons raised. Joseph slammed his hand on the launch controls as Diana and Zara piled into the pod. With a hiss of compressed air, the pod shot out into space, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts. Intrepid, this is Joseph, he called over the comm. We've secured the data, but we're under fire. Request immediate extraction. As the alien ships closed in on the tiny escape pod, the Intrepid decloaked, its precursor-enhanced weapons blazing. The sudden appearance of the Federation ship took the alien fleet by surprise, forcing them to break off their attack. The escape pod slipped into the Intrepid shuttle bay moments before the ship jumped to maximum speed, leaving the mysterious fleet and the precursor relay station far behind. In the aftermath of their daring mission, Joseph, Diana, and Zara gathered in the Intrepid's data center, their minds and abilities working in concert to process the vast amount of information they had retrieved. As they delved deeper into the precursor data, the true nature of the void threat began to take shape, along with tantalizing clues about the unknown species they had encountered. Their successful collaboration had forged a unique bond between the three hybrids. As they worked, exchanging thoughts and impressions at a speed beyond normal human comprehension, a new level of understanding and intimacy began to develop. The challenges they had faced together and the mysteries yet to be unraveled hinted at the potential for a relationship that transcended the boundaries of their respective species. With each passing moment, the crew of the Intrepid drew closer to unraveling the cosmic puzzle that lay before them. Yet, as one mystery began to unfold, new questions arose, promising further adventures in the vast, unknown reaches of the galaxy. As the Intrepid continued its journey towards the mysterious coordinates, Joseph, Diana, and Zara found themselves drawn to each other's company with increasing frequency. Their shared experiences and hybrid nature created a unique bond, one that transcended their individual species. In the data center, the trio worked tirelessly, their minds intertwining as they processed the vast amounts of precursor information. Hours turned into days, and with each passing moment, their connection deepened. One evening, after a particularly intense session of data analysis, Joseph invited Diana and Zara to his quarters. "I think we could use a break," he said, his eyes reflecting the same weariness they all felt. As they settled into Joseph's living area, the atmosphere shifted. The air seemed to thicken with an unspoken tension, their bodies unconsciously moving closer together on the couch. Zara's iridescent skin shimmered in the low light, drawing Joseph's attention. Without thinking, he reached out, his fingers brushing against her arm. The contact sent a visible ripple of energy across her skin, eliciting a soft gasp from Zara. Diana, watching the interaction with rapt attention, felt a pull she couldn't explain. She moved closer, her hand joining Joseph's on Zara's arm. The moment her fingers made contact, a surge of energy coursed through all three of them. Their bodies began to emit a soft, pulsating glow, a physical manifestation of their growing intimacy. The light intensified as they drew closer, their individual auras merging into a swirling vortex of energy. Joseph's enhanced perception kicked into overdrive, allowing him to sense the most minute reactions of his partner's bodies. He could feel the quickening of their pulses, the rush of blood beneath their skin. Diana, her abilities amplified by their connection, manipulated the energy field surrounding them. Waves of pleasure rippled through their merged aura, eliciting sighs and soft moans from all three. Zara's chameleonic skin shifted in mesmerizing patterns, reflecting the intensity of their shared experience. The colors danced across her body, a visual symphony of their growing passion. As their intimacy deepened, the energy field expanded, engulfing the entire room. The lights flickered, and nearby electronic devices sputtered and died, overwhelmed by the raw power emanating from the trio. Their consciousness began to merge, individual thoughts and memories blending into a shared experience. Fragments of precursor history flashed before their mind's eye, vast fleets of ships, battles against an encroaching darkness, and a desperate plan to defend the galaxy. The intensity of their connection reached a crescendo, triggering a ship-wide power surge. Systems throughout the Intrepid fluctuated wildly, causing momentary chaos. On the bridge, Captain Steele frowned at his malfunctioning console. "Engineering, report. What's going on down there?" "Unknown, sir," came the harried reply. "We're detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the ship. Running diagnostics now." Back in Joseph's quarters, the trio lay entwined, their bodies still glowing faintly as they processed the experience. They felt drained yet invigorated, their bond stronger than ever. "That was incredible," Diana whispered, her voice filled with awe. Joseph nodded, his mind racing. "Did you see what I saw? The precursors. Their war against the void." Zara sat up, her eyes wide. "We need to tell the captain. This changes everything." The next morning, Joseph, Diana, and Zara stood before Captain Steele in his ready room. They recounted their findings, carefully omitting the intimate nature of their discovery. "So, you're saying this installation we're heading towards is some kind of precursor stronghold?" Steele asked, his brow furrowed. "More than that," Joseph replied. "We believe it's a key part of their plan to combat the void. It could be our best chance at understanding the threat we're facing." Steele nodded, his expression grave. "Very well. We'll be dropping out of faster-than-light travel in less than an hour. I want you three to lead the away team when we arrive." As they left the ready room, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "Bridge to Captain Steele. We're approaching the coordinates, sir." The trio rushed to the bridge, arriving just as the Intrepid dropped out of FTL. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that left them all speechless. Before them lay a massive precursor installation, a sprawling complex of interconnected structures floating in the void of space. Its design mirrored the architecture of the relay station they had encountered, but on a scale that dwarfed anything they had seen before. "Scans are coming in, Captain," the science officer reported. "The installation appears to be active but running on minimal power. No signs of active defenses." Steele turned to Joseph, Diana, and Zara. "Looks like this is your show now. Suit up and prepare for boarding. Let's see what secrets this place holds." As the Intrepid maneuvered into docking position, the trio donned their specialized environmental suits. Designed to accommodate their hybrid physiologies, the suits would allow them to fully utilize their unique abilities while exploring the ancient structure. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing the dimly lit interior of the precursor installation. Joseph took a deep breath, his enhanced senses already picking up faint energy signatures deeper within the complex. Diana's hands crackled with energy, ready to manipulate the ancient systems they might encounter. Zara's skin shifted beneath her suit, adapting to their new surroundings. With a nod to each other, the three hybrids stepped onto the weathered floor of the installation, the weight of their mission heavy on their shoulders. As they ventured deeper into the vast complex, they knew that the destiny of the universe might well rest on what they discovered here. The corridors stretched before them, dark and silent, holding the secrets of an ancient civilization and the key to humanity's survival against the encroaching void. With each step, Joseph, Diana, and Zara moved closer to unraveling the cosmic mystery that had brought them to this moment, their newfound bond giving them strength for the challenges that lay ahead. As they stepped into the vast precursor installation, their hybrid abilities awakened dormant systems throughout the structure. Lights flickered to life, casting an eerie glow on the ancient walls. Holographic displays materialized around them, revealing a complex network of chambers and corridors. Joseph's eyes widened as he took in the sudden transformation. "It's responding to us," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. Diana nodded, her hands crackling with energy. "Our suits are interfacing directly with the technology. It's like the whole place is coming alive." They made their way through the winding corridors, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. As they entered what appeared to be the main control room, Joseph's attention was drawn to a central console. It pulsed with a faint blue light, seemingly beckoning him. "I think it wants me to activate it," he said, reaching out tentatively. As his fingers brushed the smooth surface, a massive holographic projection of the galaxy burst into existence above them. Countless stars and systems swirled before their eyes, with various points highlighted in different colors. Zara stepped closer, her eyes scanning the projection. "Look," she said, pointing to a location pulsing with an ominous red glow. "That matches the coordinates we found in the precursor data. It must be the origin point of the void threat." While Joseph and Zara studied the galactic map, Diana moved to a nearby panel. She placed her hands on its surface, channeling her energy manipulation abilities. The installation hummed in response, power surging through long-dormant conduits. "I'm redirecting energy to previously inactive systems," Diana explained, her brow furrowed in concentration. "There's something. Wait, I think I've found a hidden chamber." A section of wall slid open, revealing a passageway that hadn't been there moments before. The trio exchanged glances before making their way down the newly revealed corridor. It led them deep into the heart of the installation, finally opening into a vast chamber filled with advanced precursor technology. Joseph whistled low. This must be their weapons vault. They spread out, examining the various artifacts and devices. Zara's attention was drawn to a particularly intricate piece of technology. It was roughly cylindrical, with pulsating lines of energy running along its surface. "This is it," she breathed, her eyes wide. "A void nullifier. The precursors designed it to counteract the energy signature of the void entities." Joseph joined her, studying the device. "It looks incomplete," he observed, pointing to an empty socket near its base. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the installation. The trio rushed back to the control room, their hearts pounding. The holographic display had changed, now showing a fleet of ships emerging from faster-than-light travel near their location. "Those match the designs we saw at the relay station," Diana said, her voice tense. The comm system crackled to life, Captain Steele's voice filling the room. "Away, team. This is the Intrepid. Our sensors are detecting a massive energy buildup within the approaching fleet. They appear to be charging weapons capable of destroying the entire installation. What's your status?" Joseph glanced at his companions, seeing the willpower in their eyes. "Captain, we've found a weapon that might turn the tide against the void threat, but it's not complete. We need time." "Understood," Steele replied. "But make it quick. That fleet isn't here for a friendly chat." The trio quickly formulated a plan. Zara interfaced with the installation's weapon systems, bringing online a network of energy cannons and shield generators. Diana channeled her powers into the defensive grid, significantly boosting its effectiveness. Joseph, utilizing his enhanced perception, coordinated their efforts and monitored the approaching threat. As the first wave of attacks hit, the installation's rejuvenated defenses sprang to life. Energy beams lanced out from hidden emplacements, striking the enemy ships with pinpoint accuracy. Shield bubbles flared into existence, absorbing the brunt of the retaliatory fire. While Zara and Diana maintained the defense, Joseph worked to secure the void nullifier. He interfaced with the precursor systems, initiating a station-wide search for the missing component. The battle intensified around them. The installation shuddered under the relentless assault, its defenses straining against the onslaught. Captain Steele's voice came through again, tight with tension. "We're moving to provide support, but our weapons are significantly outmatched. Whatever you're doing in there, do it fast." Joseph's search algorithm pinged, highlighting a location several levels below. "I've found it," he called out. "The power source for the nullifier. It's stored in a shielded container below us." He turned to his companions. "I'll go retrieve it. You two keep this place from falling apart around us." Without waiting for a response, Joseph sprinted from the control room. He navigated the winding corridors, using his enhanced abilities to bypass security measures and avoid structural damage. The installation groaned and shuddered around him, the sounds of battle growing more intense with each passing moment. Finally, he reached the room housing the power source. An energy field shimmered before him, resisting his attempts to breach it. Joseph frowned, realizing the field was keyed to specific precursor genetic markers. Thinking quickly, he established a telepathic link with Diana and Zara. Drawing upon their combined hybrid nature, he mimicked the required genetic signature. The energy field flickered and dissipated, allowing him to retrieve the power source. With the component secured, Joseph raced back towards the control room. He arrived to find Diana and Zara struggling to maintain the defenses. Multiple sections of the installation were exposed to enemy fire, and the Intrepid itself had suffered significant damage. As they quickly assembled the void nullifier, integrating the retrieved power source, a powerful blast rocked the installation. Alarms blared, warning of imminent structural failure. "We're out of time," Zara shouted over the din. "This whole place is coming apart." Joseph grabbed the completed nullifier. "Then let's not overstay our welcome." Using their hybrid abilities, they created an energy bubble around themselves. With a final look at the crumbling precursor technology around them, they launched themselves through the disintegrating structure and into the vacuum of space. As they propelled towards the waiting Intrepid, they witnessed the installation finally succumb to the relentless attack. It broke apart in a spectacular series of explosions, centuries of precursor knowledge lost in an instant. The enemy fleet, detecting the void nullifying's energy signature, redirected its attention towards the Intrepid. Energy weapons charged, preparing to unleash a devastating barrage. In a desperate race against time, Joseph, Diana, and Zara breached the Intrepid's hull. Their energy bubble barely held as they crash-landed in the cargo bay, the impact sending them sprawling across the deck. "We're aboard!" Joseph shouted into his comm. "Go!" The ship lurched as Captain Steele ordered an emergency faster-than-light jump. The Intrepid vanished in a flash of light, narrowly evading the enemy's final assault. As the ship hurtled through space, leaving the devastated precursor installation behind, Joseph, Diana, and Zara picked themselves up from the cargo bay floor. They exchanged weary but triumphant glances, the void nullifier clutched tightly in Joseph's arms. The immediate danger had passed, but they all knew this was just the beginning. With the coordinates of the void threat's suspected origin and their newly acquired weapon, the real battle was about to begin. The fate of the stars now rested in their hands, and the challenges ahead would test their newfound bond to its limits. Limits to its fullest. The Intrepid's engines hummed with hardly restrained power as it hurtled through space towards the coordinates of the void threat's suspected origin. In the ship's preparation bay, Joseph, Diana, and Zara worked in seamless coordination, making final adjustments to their specialized environmental suits and the void nullifier. Their movements were practiced and efficient, a testament to the bond forged through their shared experiences. Power distribution optimized, Diana reported, her hands dancing over the nullifier's control panel. Zara nodded, her skin rippling beneath her suit as she adapted to its confines. Structural integrity at maximum. Joseph closed his eyes briefly, extending his enhanced senses to assess the device. Energy signature stable. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Captain Steele's voice crackled over the intercom. Approaching target coordinates. Prepare for exit from FDL. The trio secured themselves as the Intrepid decelerated. When the view screen cleared, a collective gasp echoed through the bridge. Before them loomed a massive, swirling vortex of dark energy, its inky tendrils reaching out into space like grasping fingers. Surrounding it was a fleet of ships, their designs matching those of the unknown species they had encountered at the precursor installation. Joseph stepped closer to the view screen, his enhanced perception picking up something the ship's sensors couldn't detect. There's a faint energy signature coming from the center of the vortex, he announced. It's a precursor signal, a distress beacon. Diana's eyes widened. After all this time, it must be the last precursor stronghold. The one we thought was lost to the void, Zara added, her voice hushed with awe. Their moment of revelation was cut short as the enemy fleet launched its attack. The Intrepid rocked under the first barrage, shields flaring. Evasive maneuvers, Steele barked, his hands flying over the controls. Joseph, Diana, Zara, if you're going to do something with that nullifier, now would be the time. The trio exchanged determined glances. We need to get closer, Joseph said. Right into the heart of that vortex. Diana nodded, energy crackling around her hands. I can create a protective bubble, but maintaining it against those forces. I'll help stabilize it, Zara interjected. My adaptability should counter some of the gravitational stress. And I'll guide us through, Joseph finished. Together, we might just pull this off. As the Intrepid weaved through enemy fire, the trio made their way to the airlock. With a final nod to Captain Steele, they stepped into the void of space, encased in Diana's shimmering energy field. They shot towards a vortex, the void nullifier clutched tightly in Joseph's grasp. Enemy ships, noticing their approach, concentrated their fire on the small target. Diana gritted her teeth, deflecting blasts of energy that threatened to rupture their protective bubble. Zara's form shifted constantly, her chameleonic abilities bending light around them to create a partial cloak. As they penetrated the outer layers of the vortex, reality itself seemed to warp. Gravitational forces pulled at them from all directions, while temporal distortions caused past and present to blur. Joseph's enhanced perception cut through the chaos. There, he shouted, pointing towards a faint glimmer in the swirling darkness. The signal's coming from that direction. They pushed forward, their combined abilities straining against the forces of the void. Fragments of visions flash around them, glimpses of a grand civilization's fall, the rise of an unstoppable darkness, faces twisted in terror and despair. Just as it seemed they could go no further, the vortex parted, revealing an ancient space station. Its sweeping architecture was unmistakably precursor, reminiscent of the nexus point they had left behind. They maneuvered towards a docking port, Diana's energy field interfacing with the station's long-dormant systems. As the airlock cycled open, they stumbled inside, the void nullifier held protectively between them. The station's interior was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of emergency lighting. As their eyes adjusted, they noticed row upon row of stasis pods lining the walls. They're occupied, Zara whispered, her enhanced vision picking out the shadowy forms within. Before they could investigate further, their arrival triggered a station-wide revival sequence. Lights flickered to life, and the stasis pods began to hum with awakening energy. The first pod opened with a hiss of escaping air. A tall, ethereal figure emerged, its features both alien and oddly familiar. The precursor's eyes, filled with ancient wisdom, locked onto the trio. "You have come," the being said, its voice resonating in their minds rather than their ears. "At last, our vigil ends." Joseph stepped forward, the void nullifier held before him like an offering. "We're here to stop the void," he said. "Can you help us?" The precursor nodded solemnly. "Follow me to the core. There is little time." As they rushed through the station's winding corridors, more precursors emerged from stasis, their movements graceful despite millennia of sleep. The entire group arrived at a vast chamber dominated by a colossal device, a larger, more intricate version of the void nullifier. "This is the heart of our defense against the void," the precursor leader explained. "Your device is but a component of the greater whole. When activated, it will close the vortex and neutralize the void threat." Diana frowned, sensing the unspoken caveat. But at what cost? The precursor's gaze was heavy with sorrow. The energy required is immense. The station and all within it will be consumed in the process. Before the trio could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Enemy ships had breached the outer defenses. The precursor leader turned to them. Decision made. "We will activate the device. You must return to your ship. Carry our legacy to the stars." Joseph, Diana, and Zara shared a look of understanding. In that moment, they knew what they had to do. "No," Joseph said firmly. "We'll do it." Diana nodded. "Our hybrid nature makes us ideal conduits for the energy." "We can channel it safely," Zara added. "Give you a chance to rebuild." The precursor leader's eyes widened in surprise, then softened with gratitude. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." As the sounds of battle drew nearer, Joseph activated the comm link to the Intrepid. "Captain Steele," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of what was to come. "It's been an honor." The trio took their positions around the central device. Hands joined as their hybrid energies began to merge. The precursors quickly boarded an escape pod, carrying with them the combined legacy of two civilizations. Enemy forces burst into the chamber just as Joseph, Diana, and Zara activated the void nullifier. A brilliant light engulfed them, their combined life forces powering the ancient machine. The station trembled as waves of energy pulsed outward, enveloping the vortex. The void began to collapse, pulling in the enemy fleet as it shrank. From the bridge of the Intrepid, Captain Steele watched in awe as the massive vortex imploded, taking with it the precursor station and the brave trio who had given everything to protect the universe. As the last wisps of void energy dissipated, a shockwave rippled through space, its purpose yet unknown. The Intrepid sensors lit up with activity as long-dormant precursor artifacts across the galaxy suddenly sprang to life. Captain Steele gripped the arms of his chair, eyes fixed on the spot where the vortex had been. The immediate threat was over, but he knew that the repercussions of this day would echo through the cosmos for generations to come. With a heavy heart but resolute willpower, he gave the order to set a course for Nexus Point. They carried with them a tale of sacrifice, hope, and the dawn of a new era for all species in the galaxy. As the Intrepid jumped to FTL, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, a tribute to three heroes whose light would never truly fade.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.